Classes in session. We're hitting the books. Pub Sports Radio, Monday, September 20th. Ian Cameron, Conor Mac, Grant Arnold with you, ready to look ahead and give you the first look at the NFL college football betting card for the week ahead, as we do each and every Monday right here, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Before we get into this week's games, we'll get everybody's just to get a thought and a sense of how things went for Connor, for Grant, for me over the weekend. Solid weekend overall. Can't complain. College was all right. Up and down, a little bit more up and down with college, but a lot of the night session went well. NFL was really good. I mean, 10-8's not, you would say I went 10-8, didn't go great, but all the bigger bets and bigger plays for me won yesterday, especially Carolina, Tennessee. A couple of those bigger plays for me came through. So it was good to see that. A lot of the sides I bet early. If you tuned into the Monday show last week and the NFL portion of it, where I said I got on New England early in the week, they cashed. I got on Denver early in the week, they cashed. I mentioned the Tennessee-Seattle over on the Monday show last week in the NFL. They all cashed. Looking back on the college side of it, last Monday, we told you we liked Utah State plus the points against Air Force. They won outright. We had Michigan State on the show last week. We talked that game against Miami. They won the game outright there against the struggling Hurricanes. Man, Manny Diaz has got to be on the hot seat now, seeing what's happening to that football team so far this year. So we had some good calls last week, actually, on the show. We had some losses, too. Purdue fell short against Notre Dame. We liked that on the show last Monday. There's a couple others that didn't come through. Oklahoma State came through. I like them plus the points against Boise. They got the job done with the win on the blue turf. Very happy to see that.
Coastal didn't cover.
Yeah, exactly. There's a couple of Tulane and Ole Miss. Grant, Connor, and I talked about that last week. I said, don't be scared of the over at 74. I thought it would be an absolute shootout, and Ole Miss would do most of the scoring. They did. So that was a winner. Nevada fell short. That was disappointing. They didn't play well. They were just outplayed, totally dominated pretty much, actually, by Kansas State. So we won some. We lost some on the college side with the plays I liked Monday last week, early in the week on the show. The NFL did pretty well. So I can't complain, though. Solid weekend overall. Conor Mac, how was the weekend overall for you?
Yeah, it was pretty good. College was good. Like I said, Coastal was a bad loss. Purdue, I thought they could backdoor cover that. Without Plummer, they didn't get that touchdown. I was a little surprised Notre Dame kept him there. A game I didn't play, we talked about, I love the over. I just didn't get to the window in the morning, maybe because we were on the show. I forgot, was Pittsburgh, Western Michigan. Western Michigan beat them outright, but we love that over that 58-59. I forgot to get to the window there, but bunch of wins. La Tech, Virginia, though, I thought that was the biggest horrible. That defense was horrible. I thought they came right back in the game, took the lead at halftime, and then just no offense, gave up a ton of points and lost. But all our big dogs, like I talked about, especially at home, La Tech should have won, lost in a Hail Mary. But BYU, Fresno State, the totals were that one. So the night was pretty good. San Diego State, I liked that one. I had that as well. Utah State won outright. So, yeah, it was a pretty good day in college. Decent day in NFL. Last night was crazy in that Chiefs-Ravens game. Insane. And I had the Ravens 9.5. I didn't have them the regular, but on a teaser, an 18 teaser for pretty big money. So I was happy with that. So all in all, it was a good weekend.
I think the combination of the late 4 p.m. Eastern NFL games and then that Chiefs-Ravens Sunday night football game, I don't know if you could ask for a better, more exciting, more dramatic, more tense game, especially if you're involved from a betting standpoint. Man, there was some sweating going on, me hanging on to my fingernails with the Arizona parlays that I had. Again, that game against Minnesota as well. That was just a crazy late game stretch. And, of course, the Sunday nighter was thrilling. Kudos to Harbaugh and the Ravens. 4th and 1. That's how you win a football game. You go for it. You win the game. You end it right there. You don't give Patrick Mahomes the football back and punt the ball with a minute to go, only needing a field goal or one timeout. That's just begging to lose the game if you do that. I'd rather them lose the game and fail to get 4th and 1 than punt the ball and have Patrick Mahomes beat you one more time. Grant, great to have you in here on the show as always. How was your weekend?
What's up, fellas? What's up, chat? What's up, everybody? It was a good weekend, man. Started out rough with that UCF game on Thursday. I was happy to get in on the under at 70. I talked about it on the show. Ended up not working out. It was pretty close. I also did UCF minus 6.5, so it wasn't a good start to the week for me. Regrouped, had a nice solid weekend. Sparty was good for me down in Miami. They look good. Mel Tucker's squad. as you said, Manny Diaz. The hot seat's coming, man, if it's not already here. Utah State, I had an awesome win, money line and points. We talked about that on the show. Cincy was a great way to start the morning on Saturday. Holy shit, did they look terrible in the first half. I had given that
Tale of
pick
two
out to a
halves.
couple buddies. Yeah, man, 2 weekends in a row for them. Terrible starts. And they got that one done. My Broncos, they played well. And then I was on the Carolina Panthers yesterday, who did a hell of a job. I got my safari hat on today, bringing a little funk to the show. No real reason to have
Crocodile
it, but
Dundee. Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
Out in the wild, yeah.
Yeah, man, it was a good weekend. A couple bad beats I had was in that Mississippi State Memphis game. I live bet Mississippi State, and if you were watching it or if you saw the highlights, crazy ass punt return. I was screaming at the TV. I thought that was a down play. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe I don't know the rules well enough. But damn, that was a tough one. But overall, great weekend, man. We had some good picks on the show. I think all of us did solid. So let's set everyone up for another good week here.
Yeah, absolutely. That was then, and this is now, as we say. So let's go to the now, and let's look ahead to this week. We'll start on Thursday night, the first college football game of the week. Thursday night, it's the Marshall Thundering Herd taking on the Appalachian State Mountaineers. We've got App State, 7.5-point home favorites. Actually been bet up from 6.5, 56 the total in this game. When you look at these two teams heading into this game, let's start first with Marshall. This is a team, obviously, Doc Holliday, kind of surprisingly, retires in the offseason or comes back, decides not to return. Charles Huff takes over as the head coach of this program. They get off to two, to be honest, real impressive games in the beginning of the year. Navy, 49-7 beat down of the midshipmen, and then they beat NC Central 44-10 after that. And there were a lot of people that like Marshall, that I talked to at least last week against East Carolina. And early in the fourth quarter, things are looking awesome for them in that game, laying 9.5, 10. And then all of a sudden, Holton Ahlers and the East Carolina passing game gets things going, and they ripped the Marshall secondary. 395 passing yards for Holton Ahlers in that game. And the East Carolina Pirates outscore Marshall 21-0 in the fourth quarter, and they end up coming all the way back from 38-21 down and winning 42-38. Just a, awful loss for Marshall, considering the lead they had. Now can they bounce back? They got to go on the road. Short week, although it won't be huge travel. West Virginia to Boone, North Carolina is not a huge travel spot by any stretch, but still, short week with travel. The one thing I like, though, about Marshall, they're in the point spread role, that they were gold for the most part in the Doc Holliday era.
Yeah.
Underdog role. They have been a machine as an underdog. And I've got the numbers in front of me. We're looking at 8-2 against the spread last 10 as a road dog, 11-5 against the spread their last 16 as an underdog overall. This is the point spread you want for Marshall, taking these kind of points. Early in the week, I haven't bet this yet, but obviously we're talking about every weekday game. I'm interested in Marshall. The line's climbed up. It's above the key number of 7 now. I know App State's looked extremely impressive. They beat East Carolina, whereas Marshall lost to East Carolina. So we have common opponent for these two teams, East Carolina. And App State beat them 33-19 and outgained them by 104 yards. But, they also had that impressive game against Miami where, they nearly beat the Hurricanes on the road 25-23. Last week they played Elon 44-10, so you can't put too much stock into that. Chase Bryce is playing well at quarterback. We'll give him that. Maybe App State change of scenery has helped him out. They run the football well. The defense has been very good, and we expected the defense to be good. That was the strength of this App State team coming into the year. I just don't know if I'm ready to lay 7.5 here with them, and especially against a team that, if Marshall, is still a good team, and I think they are, this is kind of a spot where I expect them to bounce back and play well. If they are, sulking a little bit after the loss to East Carolina in that bad fourth quarter, then maybe they're in trouble. I think this is a close game. Marshall is pretty good with their run defense, or their run defense is better, obviously, than their pass defense. And I think that's the place, guys, that you want to be better defensively against App State. App State's a run-first offense. I think Marshall I think the better part of their defense is stopping the run, and I think that might help them here in this game. So I haven't bet it yet. And at 6.5 when it opened, I may not have gotten involved. Now that we're seeing 7.5 with Marshall, I'm kind of thinking I might be on the thundering herd here. Again, 11 of their last 16 they have cashed against the spread as an underdog. Grant Wells wasn't the problem last week. We talked about how Grant Wells last year, what happened to the offense down the stretch. They finally have a huge game out of him and the offense, and then the defense collapses in the fourth quarter. So if they can still produce offensively somewhat to the way they did last week, I think they're in this game. So if I'm betting at this current number, I'm betting Marshall. Connor, what's your early week thoughts here? Marshall, App State.
Yeah, the defense let them down, but Grant Wells took them down there and threw a pick right on the goal line. So he kind of coughed it up. They could have won that game. But I love East Carolina. So, we talk about rolls. That's where Marshall laying that many. Everyone's high on them. That's where they falter. It didn't look like it early. But, then this is where I want Marshall with the points here. You went through all those. App State's really bad lately against the spread. They're like 5-11 against winning teams. They're 1-5 at home. They haven't been very good covering the number. So, this is two bad quarterbacks that I don't like to watch here in Bryce and Wells. The defense has got to be better. I think they're too close in the number. So I'd only be on Marshall here.
All right, leaning towards Marshall. Grant, what are your thoughts on this one?
I agree with both you guys on mostly everything on this. The one thing I would I'm going to personally look at before placing a bet on this game is I'm going to rewatch a little bit of that fourth quarter in the Marshall and honestly just watch the sideline and the coaching and the body language and shit. Because when you get outscored 21-0, I don't like putting my money on a team that just lost 21-0 in the last quarter they played. Now, we also talk about the response, positive. Positive.
Did they just get outplayed or did they panic? That's, I think, what you're hinting at. Yeah,
exactly. That's exactly what I'm hinting at. And so where is that staff? Where's the leadership? I like you got the 7.5. You got the hook. May go up. I look at it and I go, that's the key factor for me in this game. I'll look at that. And then the other thing, App State, are they going to beat you in the air? Is Chase Bryce going to beat you in the air? Well, they have a couple good receivers in Hennigan, and I think Williams is another one. But I don't mind betting that. If Chase Bryce is going to beat me, I'll tip my cap and he beats me. So I'll look at that Marshall body language, check that out. I like where the line is at right now. App State may be a decent team, kind of tough to read for me right now at this point, but the line favors Marshall, as you guys said. I check that body language, though, because 21 rips, 21 rip. I mean, that ain't good for nobody.
Yeah, I mean, that is an alarming way to finish that game. There's no question about that. Yes, we appreciate it. We got a dono from Tony Cobbs, $5. Yes. We appreciate that. Thank you very much. Guys like you, guys like everybody that's tuning in, watching in the chats, sending us donations. You're the guys that make this channel. Keep it going. Keep us coming here each and every day, giving you great content. That's what it's all about. No question.
Real quick, to answer, like already people put in there, Jacksonville, though, it probably would have opened the same. It just wouldn't have moved.
Yeah.
If Marshall would have hung on one, it probably just would have stayed at 5.5 instead of moving up to 7.5. But good question, Jose.
Yeah, apparently in the look ahead line, it was around 5. So there's been some adjustment. There's people saying, wow, Marshall really shit the bed, in the fourth quarter. And App State's looked impressive. Let's not forget that as well. Beat up East Carolina, nearly beat Miami on the road. Although the more we see Miami, the more we think that's just a paper tiger. So the people it's a combination of two things. Marshall, that collapse against East Carolina, and App State's look pretty good. I think that's why the early money has come in here on the home favorite. All right, let's go now to Thursday night NFL football. We got the Carolina Panthers taking on the Houston Texans. Carolina in some spots open 4.5, believe it or not, as road favorites in this game. It's actually crossed the key number of 7. We're now seeing Carolina 7.5-point road favorites here, 43 the total. Of course, Carolina's looked extremely impressive. I was very happy to see. It was not only to win with Carolina, betting them against the New Orleans Saints yesterday, but it was no sweat. I mean, there was nothing to worry about. They just dominated that game from start to finish. Matt Rule's got a defense. Gross Matos and Burns up front on the defensive line. They've been good. Their linebacking core's improved. Jeremy Chin and that J.C. Horn is shining as a rookie in that secondary already for the Panthers. There's a lot to like with this defense. And Sam Darnold, isn't it amazing how you put him with a competent head coach, you put him with an offense that knows a little bit what they're doing and how to put him in good positions, how to put him in his best position to help him succeed, how much different he can be. I mean, he's not lighting it up, but he's moving the ball. He's using his DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson. He's finding his receivers. Christian McCaffrey being healthy and on the field has been significant. Can hand the ball off to him, can use him in the short passing game because he's one of the better pass-catching running backs in the NFL. So it's just been a very, very impressive start on both sides of the ball for Carolina. And they're definitely a team that I was very, very pro-Carolina coming into the year. I said that on the preview shows here with Jimmy the Bag. On this channel, I talked Carolina. I liked over their win total. I thought they had a chance to be the second best team in this division, and I agree that that's very, very real. That could be the case. That they're next to Tampa in this division. But now the question is, do you want to lay this many points with Carolina? This is not a role that we were accustomed to seeing them in. To be asked to not only win a game, but win a game on the road on a short week and win by more than a touchdown. Now that ends up being the big question. Are you paying too much of a price here on Carolina? All that being said, I don't know if I could get to the Houston side at all, regardless of the number. They've already said Deshaun Watson will not play in this game after Tyrod Taylor got injured against the Cleveland Browns on Sunday. And to be honest with you, if Taylor doesn't get hurt in that game, Houston might be in that game start to finish and maybe even have a chance. I mean, they were playing really good in that first half. They were moving the ball on the ground through the air. Their defense actually forced a turnover of Baker Mayfield. So Houston, to be honest with you, through two games, they've played better than I thought. But now you got to go with Davis Mills. And there was not a single moment in my time watching this guy at Stanford where I said, oh, there's a bona fide number one NFL quarterback. No, not once did I say that when I watched Davis Mills at Stanford. And sure enough, he showed why yesterday in that game. He was rough. I mean, when he came in, that was obviously a tough situation. Taylor got hurt, but 8 for 18, 1 interception. That's terrible. Absolutely awful. He struggled, had trouble reading the defense, hung on to the football too long, took too many sacks. He's not exactly the most mobile quarterback either. And when I think of the way this Carolina defense, guys, has played through 2 weeks, shut down Wilson and the Jets, completely shut down Jameis Winston and the Saints, who ripped Green Bay, the week before. How does Houston move the football in this game? I don't know if I want to lay 7.5. And I think the best way to go if you want to fade Houston might just be bet Houston team total under 17.5. I'm already seeing 17.5 as the team total in this game for the Houston Texans. Do you guys have any faith they get more than 17 points in this game? I don't, against this Carolina defense with Davis Mills under center at quarterback. So to me, I'm a little bit more hesitant on the -7.5, but I think the Houston team total under 17.5 is a pretty good bet in this football game on Thursday night. And that's probably one I'll end up betting before kickoff. What are your thoughts here, Conor Mac? Thursday night NFL, Carolina, Houston.
Yeah, that's a pretty good look. Because how much is Davis Mills going to do? I've been on the Texans those first 2 weeks. I thought it was insane that the Jaguars were favored by 3.5. We talked about it. And I thought it was a little bit crazy as we saw Taylor went out. That football game was close. I mean, everyone else, I know a lot of people like the Browns. Some people I talked to, I just thought 14 points, that was crazy. So I grabbed him. But him getting out, Taylor, it just kills him. I don't know what Mills can do. So, yeah, that underlook is pretty good. Let's see with the Panthers, 2 weeks. Can Darnold go on the road? I think they win, but will they win and cover, these good teams? Defenses usually travel. We talk about it's early in the year. They played well. So this one I really just kind of want to watch. I might have a few bets come Thursday, but that's it. It's just going to be tough, for the Texans. And the Texans defense isn't that good still. So Carolina should be able to score.
Yeah, definitely. Grant, what do you think here, Thursday night NFL?
I talked about it last week with the short weeks in the NFL. You got to look at a couple things: coaching, health, what's going on there. Well, I definitely give the coaching to Carolina. I give the energy and the positive, what's going on there. He played great I think Darnold, as you said, Ian, you get him with a good coaching staff and a solid O-line, decent O-line, with a shitload of weapons around him. Who knows, man? We'll see where this season turns out for him. But if he can be solid and not turn the ball over, man, I like this team. I really do. They've outscored opponents 33-0 in the first half in the first two games. So that stat jumped out to me this morning right away. And as we're talking through the game, Taylor, he's going to be out. As Connor said, Houston was well in that fucking game. Taylor's played very well. And now we got Davis Mills coming in, right? And we got defense. Defense travels typically. They haven't let up a score in the first half, outscoring opponents 33-0 in the first two games. I may look at that Houston team total, and I may look at a first half under. I assume Houston's going to come out with a lot of focus on, man, we got to play defense. We got to get stops, just as a team aura going into that game, because we got Davis Mills at QB. So just looking at this game, maybe a first half under, maybe a Houston team total under. The 7.5 scares me, as any NFL game should, but that 33-0 in the first halves for the first two games for Carolina screams at me, make a play on this first half or maybe a team total under on Houston.
Yeah, definitely could be a lower scoring start. Establish the run, with Phillip Lindsay, David Johnson, Mark Ingram. It's basically running back by committee right now with Houston. So definitely something to keep an eye on, that they're going to want. They got to try to help this young quarterback out making this first start in a tough spot. And you would think, getting the run game going will help. Yeah, McCaffrey's healthy. Someone asking in the chat. Baseball's later in the day. Someone else asked in the chat, no baseball. Baseball's at 4 p.m. Eastern. So Connor and I and Ski Profit will have you covered for the baseball later today on closing time, MLB. So we'll be on later with that. All right, let's turn our attention now back to college. Friday, we've got Middle Tennessee State and Charlotte. The 49ers, 2.5 point home favorites, 56.5 the total here in this one. Middle Tennessee State losing to UTSA and Virginia Tech on the road in back-to-back weeks. Really no shame in either loss. Two obviously pretty good teams. Virginia Tech, obviously is a team that wasn't high on coming into the year, but still for Middle Tennessee to have to play them, and a very good Texas San Antonio team back-to-back games, difficult assignment. And now they're going to take on Charlotte, who, when you look at Charlotte, they've played Duke, they've played, the Gardner-Webb after that, and then they played Georgia State last week, and a Georgia State team that had really struggled, and Charlotte just can't get anything going offensively. I don't know what happened to Chris Reynolds in that game. I actually kind of like him as the Charlotte quarterback, but 13 of 28, 158 yards through the air, not good. They couldn't run the football against Georgia State, which was stunning to me because Georgia State's been just gashed defensively. So Charlotte, just their offense being that bad in the game, 9 points against Georgia State. It was shocking to see that because Georgia State just had a terrible start to the year on the defensive side of the football. And then sure enough, they're basically having their way against Charlotte. This is a team that gave up 43 points to Army, 59 to North Carolina. Granted, tough opponents, good teams, but Charlotte just could not get anything going whatsoever offensively against Georgia State in that game. So that worries me a little bit here for Charlotte in this game against Middle Tennessee State. I think if you're going to use, Charlotte, when you look at them, and their schedule so far, it's not been great. The best team they've played is Duke, and that's not saying much because Duke is, not as good as they've been obviously in the past. Whereas Middle Tennessee, they're coming off the UTSA, Virginia Tech games, and they've got a solid quarterback. I'm not saying he's great, but he's a guy that's been around. He played at a Power 5 school and started many games there. Talking about Bailey Hawkman, the NC State transfer. I think when I look at this game and I see Charlotte after that kind of performance last week favored, I've got to scratch my head and say, it's hard not to like Middle Tennessee, at least at this current number, with them getting plus 2.5 here in this game. Again, we'll look to see how things go later in the week. And I know Middle Tennessee's off 2 straight losses, but this could end up being a step down in class here a little bit for Middle Tennessee facing the Charlotte team, because to get outgained by 161 yards and outgained on the ground by 180 yards against a Georgia State team that basically got mauled on the defensive end of the field in the first two games. That worries me for Charlotte, especially as favorites, having to win this game and to win it by at least a field goal. So early week lean, haven't bet it yet, but I'm waiting for a 3 because this went from 2 to 2.5. If it hits 3, I'll probably absolutely at that point be a buyer on the Blue Raiders here. Conor Mac, what do you think early in the week here? MTSU, Charlotte.
Yeah, I'd only be on Middle Tennessee State. Yeah, Valerie, I'm half vampire, so watch out. Yeah, I'd only be on Middle Tennessee State. I take the points with them or just take a money line. I think Chase Cunningham will do well. Charlotte didn't do anything to me. I wasn't, didn't like them at all. This is a game I want to dig into more. These are two teams I don't like betting on. But if I had to right now, I'd take Middle Tennessee State and I'd take a money line.
Yeah, I mean, Charlotte's a team I had high hopes for coming into the year, but that was an alarm. Now, was it a one-off? Because I still think this team's got the chance to be capable, but I didn't like what I saw from them offensively against Georgia State. And let's give Middle Tennessee credit. They had to play Virginia Tech. They had to play a very good Texas San Antonio team. Those are two very good football teams, especially UTSA. This could be a little bit of a step down here for the Blue Raiders. Grant, what do you think of this game?
Yeah, I think it could be a little bit of a step down for Middle Tennessee coming in. It is a road game. As I look at that Charlotte Georgia State game, they lost 20-9 on their defense. They only gave up 20 points. They forced two turnovers and they got a safety. So now they are playing Georgia State, right? So again, we got to look at all those things. But the defense wasn't that bad. I mean, they did give up 281 yards on the ground, so it wasn't good. But they only gave up 20 points. Kind of like Connor said, I don't really like betting on these two teams. I don't know too much about them, so this would be a watch for me as I listen to you guys and from what I've looked at on the early side of things. Middle Tennessee State looks good, but it might move up to that 3 as we saw a little bit of line movement. So for me, stay away. I'll watch this one. Maybe get in on it later in the week. We'll see.
Yeah. By the way, there's a couple of people that that always send me every week on the Sunday night, Monday morning. They send me their power ratings, and these are people that really know college football. Both of them had basically in this game Middle Tennessee the slight favorite, and yet we're seeing Charlotte here 2.5 points. So that's why I'm also. It's not just that Charlotte looked awful in the game against a very, I thought, weak Georgia State team last week. But I think they also see that, hey, that now they're also an underdog here, and Middle Tennessee's played some pretty tough teams the last 2 weeks. So I haven't bet it yet, but certainly if this hits 3, I will be getting in on Middle Tennessee in this one. Wake Forest and Virginia. Next up, we've got Virginia 4-point favorites in this game at home, 67 the total in this game. High total, but very, very difficult for me to look at anything but an over, as long as the weather is going to be at least decent, as long as we don't have any wind, we don't have any kind of torrential downpour in Charlottesville, on Friday night for this ACC clash. I think it's a game where we can expect both offenses to move the football. I mean, I like this Wake Forest offense a lot. Sam Hartman at quarterback. I think he's got a very solid receiving core as well. When you look at the weapons that he's got to work with on this Wake Forest offense, very good in the win against Florida State, but they've got a great running back, Christian Beal-Smith, Christian Turner as well. And then you look at some of these receivers, Perry, Taylor Moran, Blake Whiteheart, all stepping up, having good games. Of course, Jakari Roberson, one of the good receiver now for multiple years here with this Wake Forest team. I mean, they've got weapons, too, to work with for Sam Hartman throwing the ball. Good running back, good run game as well. Very balanced offense. And they put up 42, 41, and 35 points in their first 3 games. And I think what we're finding out from Virginia is if you get any sort of team capable of throwing the football, and in theory, Sam Hartman should be able to do that here for Wake Forest, they're going to have a tough time with that secondary. I mean, that was the first really good offense and passing game and quarterback that they faced this year. And by the way, 68% completions on the year, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. It's almost 700 passing yards through 3 games for Sam Hartman. So efficient, not making mistakes. That's definitely something you like to see. And I think when you look at it for Wake, they'll have time. They'll have that ability to move the football here in this game because Virginia's secondary against the first good quarterback passing game they faced, Sam Howell and North Carolina last week. They got absolutely ripped apart, 59 points allowed, just gutted through the air. That could be trouble against this up-tempo Wake Forest offense. However, let's tip our cap to Brennan Armstrong for Virginia. Their quarterback has been really good throwing the football this year as well. And when you look at Wake and what they've faced so far, they faced a Florida State team that's completely out of sorts. And Florida State's supposed to be pretty good offensively with Jordan Travis and Mackenzie Milton, their two quarterbacks, but they didn't do anything against Jacksonville State in that loss. And the 14 points against Wake kind of looks like a carryover where the offense is just out of sync. Their offensive line's disastrous. So it looks on paper like Wake's defense, wow, great win, great performance against Florida State. This could be a much improved defense. I think they are better defensively, but I don't think they're going to shut down Virginia completely. I mean, this is a very good passing attack. He's thrown the ball extremely well. I'm impressed with how much more speed and playmaking ability this team, I'm talking Virginia, how much more of it they have at the wide receiver position. I mean, they got guys that can flat out catch the football and make plays in the open field. I mean, more than I've seen out of a Virginia team in recent memory. So rather than look at a side in this game, I guess in a game where I expect both offenses to have success, I would lean underdog. It could be one of those games where it's back and forth, and maybe the last team with the ball wins. But I think there's offensive success here for both of these teams in this game on Friday night. You could argue that the total is up there. Last year, it was 40-23 in favor of Wake Forest, but a little misleading in that Wake Forest only outgained Virginia by 63 yards. There were some turnovers that worked against Virginia in that game, but you got 63 points. You're going to need a lot. I was kind of hoping the total was slightly lower than the 67 that we're seeing here. But that being said, I still think I would go in at some kind of bet at least, even if it's just a small one over 67, because I think it's a game both offenses could match up pretty well. What do you think here, Conor Mac? ACC action on Friday night.
Yeah, I was hoping this total, wasn't going to be this high at 67. I just wouldn't feel great taking an under in this one. That defense I watched from Virginia was just horrible. I guess everything looked too good in that Virginia had beat North Carolina 5 times. They spread everything you looked at. And North Carolina might have just been pissed. They played a great second half, and Virginia got gashed. Wake Forest hasn't played anybody, though. So, they beat up on Florida State. We found out they're not very good. So I don't think that wins anything here either. I'd be on the 4 with Wake. Virginia's a lot better at home. Can their defense play better at home? But we know Armstrong and, like you talked about, all the slew of receivers, they'll be able to throw the ball around. So that's why, like I said, yeah, it's just over or nothing for me. And I'd only grab the points with Wake. I think it'd be a back and forth kind of battle here.
Yeah, exactly. And there's some people, the same good college football guy I know sends me the power ratings has Virginia less than a field goal favorite in this game against Wake Forest in this matchup. So maybe there is a little value on Wake. And again, with what we saw out of Virginia's defense against North Carolina, tough to lay points with a defense that you don't always trust to get stops. And, that was definitely the case with Virginia last week. Grant, what do you think here with Wake and UVA?
Yeah, Wake Forest, I had written in here a nice home win against Florida State, but, the more you think about it, as Connor said, Florida State is very disappointing, as we've seen so far this season. Hartman, a solid quarterback. Perry, as you talked about, Ian, he had 6 catches last week for 155 yards and a tutty. They got Beal Smith at the running back. I like this Wake Forest team. They have talent. But I kind of go back on to what Connor said is that they haven't played anyone of substance, in my opinion. They're going on the road to a team in Virginia with Armstrong, who just set the program record last game, 39 for 54, 4 tutties, 554 yards. He was minus 16 on the ground, so probably some sacks and things like that, but no movement on the ground. I worry about Virginia's run game. quite a bit. They had 22 attempts last week and 21 yards. So that scares me. They got a lot of fucking talent on this receiving core. We talked about it a little bit last week, how we're watching these Virginia games and going, damn, is that Virginia? Because they got some fucking athletes out there. This Wicks kid and this Kemp's kid, or Wicks and Kemp, excuse me. They can play, man. I look at this, and this is one of those things that I kind of draw back on my playing experience of Virginia got that ass beat in the second half. I took North Carolina live. I talked about Sam Howell last week at North Carolina, how I think they're a little bit over the hump and they're going to start clicking offensively. I think Sam Howell's just that good, and he needs a little bit of time with these new receivers and new running backs. So that was a good live bet for me. Anyway, my point being is when you're up 28-24 going into halftime and you lose 59-39, and then the following week we have a home game. Virginia has a home game. I like Virginia, maybe Virginia in the first half. I think just based on emotion, they're going to come out pissed off, and it'll be a hard week of practice with a lot of details, especially in the secondary. Jesus Christ. They got to clean quite a bit up there. So the 67 doesn't scare me as much, but you know, it is a decent amount of points. I see points being scored in this game. So I lean with the over, and I'll look at that Virginia maybe first half, maybe a money line or maybe -2, depending on where that would hang around.
Yeah, and you know what they need too? They need a lot more balance in their offense, Virginia. I mean, it's been almost exclusively through the pass. They're averaging 438 passing yards per game, and they're only averaging 120 rushing yards per game.
That's going to catch up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do. They need more balance. You just can't be one-dimensional, and eventually you're gonna pay the price for that. And look, they were trailing big time against North Carolina, so that was something to that. But even in the Illinois game, you know, they threw the ball a lot more than they ran it, and trouble running the football consistently in that game too. So, but at the same point in time, you know, if you're not having any success running the football, you're going to throw more, and that's going to help the over. So that's another reason why I think you're going to end up seeing some points scored here with Wake Forest and Virginia. We move on to the next one. Very interesting one here. Liberty and Syracuse. We've got Syracuse 6.5, Liberty 6.5 point road favorites. 52.5 the total here in this game. Syracuse off to a 2-1 start, believe it or not, this year, although they played Albany, which was pretty much a walkover game for them last weekend, 62-24. Prior to that, you know, they beat Ohio 29-9. That's not saying much because Ohio is a disgrace this year. It's unbelievable how bad and how much the Ohio Bobcats have fallen in the first year after the Frank Solich era came to an end. But then the Rutgers game, kind of misleading. Yeah, they lost 17-7, but they outgained Rutgers by 63 yards, plus 1.4 yards per play. Against Rutgers, despite losing that game. I got to say it, Syracuse has kind of done better than I thought they would, and I give them credit for that. Dino Babers, believe it or not, has a halfway decent defense on this Syracuse team. I've been impressed with them on the defensive side of the football. I throw out the Albany result. They gave up 24 points, but so many of those points were late. Garbage time, fourth quarter, and the game was already well in hand at that point. But I look at Syracuse, the defense has been pretty solid for them so far. And now they're giving, because Tommy DeVito is at quarterback, has never been consistent, never been someone you could rely on to say, hey, he's going to get the job done for us. And look, the O-line's been bad for Syracuse the last couple of years. That hasn't helped their offense. They've been one of the worst offensive lines in all of college football the last couple seasons. But in the game against Albany, we saw a lot of Garrett Schrader at quarterback, the Mississippi State transfer. And I think that's a good thing. And it looks like Dino is giving him and kind of splitting the reps during games between him and DeVito. And I think it's right because I think Schrader's actually, the more you see him, he's making some plays for Syracuse. We'll have to see what Dino Babers is going to do with his quarterback situation here. I'd assume he's going to play both again. You know, you're playing a very good Liberty team. It's a dangerous team. It's not a fluke that you're an underdog at home against Liberty, because Liberty's no joke. Liberty is one of the best group of 5 teams in the country this year. And I think if you're Syracuse, you maybe want to have that two quarterback system going here to maybe try to throw this Liberty team off balance a little bit and maybe throw, a couple of different wrinkles at them defensively, because they are a pretty good defensive football team. The question right now is for this Syracuse team, when you look at it, are you getting value with Liberty going into this game is the question, because there were some people coming into the year that they expected Syracuse to still be favored slightly in this game at home, believe it or not. Syracuse is a slight home favorite in some people's preseason projected lines for this game. And now we see Liberty playing the way they have to this point. They've been obviously very impressive. Nobody's denying that. Malik Willis, an outstanding dual threat quarterback. They are 3-0 straight up, 3-0 against the spread this year. They beat up Campbell. They have a good, solid road win against Troy where they outgained them by over 100 yards. Troy's a solid team. They beat them by 8 on the road. And then, of course, they whipped Old Dominion 45-17. I understand Liberty's very good, but boy, I just don't, and I lean Liberty here, but man, I just don't know if the number's right. I don't know if the value's there. We're talking on a Friday night in Syracuse with a defense that's actually been pretty serviceable so far. You got to lay 6 here with this Liberty team, and I'm not sure I'm ready to do that just yet in this game. So this is probably a game I'm not going to have a bet on pregame. We'll see how it starts out. Maybe we'll find an in-game opportunity, but I like Liberty a lot. I want to back them in this game, but when you've got projected lines before the season that had Syracuse around a 1-2 point home favorite in this game, now you're seeing them a 6.5 point home underdog. That's a significant and steep adjustment. And now the question becomes, is it too much of an adjustment to how good this Liberty team is? And let's not forget, Syracuse's defense has been pretty solid in the first 3 games, and it's held them in some of these games. So food for thought before this game takes place, that if Syracuse's defense is as good as it's looked in the first 3 games, it may not be easy for Liberty to go on the road and win this game by at least a touchdown, which they're going to need to cash a ticket. What do you think here, Conor Mac? It's an interesting game, Liberty and Syracuse.
Yeah, I remember this game last year. Liberty, beat them pretty good, 38-21. But Syracuse is better. They're healthier. I think their defense is better. Initially, when I looked at this game, I wanted the under. It's gotten pounded, obviously. But I'd still lean under a little bit. Yeah, I think Liberty's a better team. They have Malik Willis, but can they not only win but cover on the road? I'm not so sure. I lean Liberty, especially when you have the better quarterback here, and I think they're the slightly better team all the way around. But I don't know if I'll get to the window here with this one.
One thing to keep in mind, covering as favorites has not been an issue for Liberty. 8-0 against the spread. Their last 8 is favorites.
They did it, last week, by 1 point. They, They did it Troy. They've been covering, so if you've been taking them. Yeah.
On the road at Troy. Yeah, exactly. And here's the great debate here. And last year, by the way, don't automatically assume that last year Liberty beats them 38-21 Syracuse. Syracuse was a shit show last year. They had quarterback injuries. They were injury depleted all over the football team. Defense, offensive line was in shambles. You're right. They're a healthier team. I think their defense is pretty solid this year. It's, can they score enough points? And they're going to hang in there maybe defensively, but they're not shutting down this Liberty offense completely under Malik Willis. They are at some point going to have to put up some points. The question is, will they be able to do that consistently here in this game against Liberty's own defense, which is pretty good themselves? They went on the road against, I think, a Troy Trojans team that's improved this year, that's got, I think, solid group on both sides of the ball. Taylor Powell, the quarterback, they went on the road to Liberty and held them to 13 points. And that defense for Liberty looks really good through the first 3 weeks of the year. So that's why that if you're Liberty, Syracuse defense might be able to hang in there for a while. But I think at some point there might be, because Liberty's own defense has been good and it's still an offensively compromised Syracuse team, that Liberty still might be able to extend this margin at some point and maybe get this margin up to a touchdown or more. So, yes, I definitely lean Liberty. Haven't pulled the trigger yet. Not sure I will. Grant, what's your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, Liberty, fun team to watch. Want to, feel good college story, smaller school, with a hell of an athlete at quarterback in Malik Willis. You guys have talked about it. 7 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 4 rushing touchdowns. The kid can play football. We don't know necessarily at what level in terms of, when you get into higher competition. Is Syracuse higher competition? Defensively, maybe. This will be the best defense he's faced this season. Syracuse only giving up 16 points a game. Now they did just play Albany, and like you said, those trash points late. I thought it was a good performance from Syracuse. As I look at the game, I always have a hard time betting on teams or looking at teams when there's QB question marks, and they're going to play two QBs. I believe you're right, and they're going to at least start with two QBs and see where this thing goes. That could be totally wrong. They could pick one throughout the week, but the way the game played last week and the reps just made sense to me, or makes sense to me that they will do some type of split. The under, what was the under? Is it 54?
The total in this game is 52 and a half right now. Yeah.
So it's been okay. Yeah. So that's a little scary to me, but at the same time, I think this could be an under game. It'll be a fun game for me to watch. I'm staying away from it. But if you haven't seen Liberty and this Malik Willis kid, that's a good one, and he'll be tested against that Syracuse defense. Like I said, two quarterbacks kind of scares me away from it. I could see it being a low-scoring game. And I could see it being actually quite a fun game to watch. I haven't said that about a Syracuse football game in God knows how long, but this one could be fun to watch.
Sure?
I'll stay away. Yeah, I mean, this could be a good football game. See if Malik Willis can make some plays. I believe he can. Let's tune in on Friday night and check it out.
Yeah, well, the thing is, what is Babers going to do from a tempo standpoint? Because in the first couple of games against Ohio and Rutgers, they slowed the thing down. They were not going that up-tempo Syracuse offense, extreme tempo, which he's been known for going back to when he was head coach at Bowling Green. That's been the offense. It's been up-tempo. It's snapped the football as quickly as possible. He got away from that against Ohio and Rutgers because he knows this offense it's a major work in progress. You got quarterback concerns. The O-line was terrible last year. You're trying to develop it. They did pick up the pace last week, but they did so against Albany because they knew they'd outman Albany. They'd be able to overpower them in that game. But now that you're playing a very good Liberty team, are you in a situation now where you're going to be able to, speed it up again and have success that way? So that's what I'm going to look at. In terms of the total, I wouldn't bet it until I read something during the course of the week from the head coach, and I'm going to look for it. How are you going to play it offensively? Are you going to revert? Because they went back to up-tempo last week a little bit against Albany. Are you going to keep it that way? Or are you going to slow it down again like you did against Ohio and Rutgers, your two tougher opponents? So that's going to be a big question mark going into this game. How does he play it from a pace standpoint, Dino Babers, in terms of this offense going into Friday night against Liberty? All right, we've lost Connor for a second, but we'll keep it going.
Can I make a quick point on that, Ian?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Just wanted to say, just for I've talked a little bit about my growth as a gambler and things like that, and Ian mentioned something there about how he's going to look at that throughout the week. What the coach says. I've gotten so into that, especially with football midweek. What is the coach saying? Not as what ESPN quoting him as. What is somebody on YouTube saying about him? Listen to the coaches. Go to the local papers online. It's easy to access. And I found that you can really get some good insider information that's not hard to get anymore. You just got to search things up online and go to those local papers and get those local interviewers. Sometimes you can get a little golden nugget there. So that will be definitely something I'm looking at is, what the coaches are saying this week.
All right. Next up, we've got one of the most difficult games on the college football card this week because I just don't have a good opinion on it one way or the other. UNLV and Fresno State. We've got Fresno State 31.5-point home favorites, 58.5 the total. Handicapping 101 says this ain't the spot to lay 31.5 with Fresno State, not after their win of the season for them. Incredible performance by Jake Hayner, the Washington transfer quarterback. He wasn't just good. He was brilliant. He was outstanding for the Fresno State Bulldogs Saturday night in the Rose Bowl in Pasadena against UCLA. I mean, I thought for sure, because that game was back and forth, both teams, exchanging haymakers. DTR, drove UCLA down and scored some points. And then Fresno kept answering back. And then when UCLA finally took the lead with just under a minute to go, I'm like, well, that's finally it. UCLA is going to survive. And yet Hayner, with a banged up, busted up hip and all as well, because he was going through some kind of hip issue going toward the end of that game, gutted it out, still led Fresno down the field in the final minute, punched it in for just an incredible win, incredible football game, great game to watch, great game for me from a betting standpoint. I was on the underdog Fresno State side and the over in that game. Both of those came through, so I enjoyed that game both ways, not only as a viewer but as a bettor. But one thing after a win like that for Fresno, and let's give Caleb DeBoer a lot of credit, this guy, for the new young head coach at Fresno. He's done a good job here. This is a much improved Fresno team. We kind of thought they'd be coming into the year. Ronnie Rivers, an outstanding running back, great weapons at receiver. The quarterback was already pretty decent last year. Oh, he's improved tenfold this year. He's a very good quarterback now, Jake Haener for Fresno. But man, G. Martinez in the chat is thinking what I'm thinking. Letdown City. It's just got that feel. Short week, Friday night, hosting lowly, pathetic UNLV. Now, I'm not laying 31.5 here with Fresno. No way, no how. It's just not the right spot to do it. But is UNLV good enough to take advantage of it? I don't know if they are. They're that bad, UNLV. So this is one of those clear stay-off games for me. I'm not going to be involved in it. I can't make a strong case to lay this much with Fresno. They certainly are capable of winning this game by 35 plus, but given what just happened, a huge win at UCLA, a Bruins team that was playing very good football before that game. Let's not forget what they did against LSU, UCLA, and Fresno goes in there and beats them. I don't trust Fresno necessarily in this spot. They are capable in terms of matchups, personnel on the field, to be more than 31.5 points better at home than UNLV. That's certainly, if they're focused and they come ready to play, they could still cover, but I don't trust them to be. And at the same point in time, there's no way I'm putting a UNLV ticket in my pocket right now. Not after what I saw last week against Iowa State. That was an Iowa State home game. That's shameful. That's embarrassing. Putting UNLV in that Allegiant Stadium. I mean, it was a sea of red for the Cyclones in that game last Saturday night. And they're playing so bad, it's at the point where, you know what, you don't deserve this big, beautiful, gaudy new stadium. Evict them, send their asses out of there, and make them play at Sam Boyd or make them play somewhere else. They're not worthy of that stadium, UNLV football, and Arroyo, and what a disastrous hire once again it's looking like with him for UNLV. So that's why this game's a clear pass for me. In this spot, there's no way I'm laying 31.5 with Fresno off the win of the year for them. But I don't trust UNLV enough to want to back them either. So it's a pass. Conor Mac, your early week thoughts here. Fresno State, UNLV.
Yeah, I need to go support the Rebels. Shit. They're horrible. Yeah. I mean, to tell you the truth, I'm not going to do it, but I'd only lay it with Fresno State. But this is getting out of control. What a huge win. I mean, I thought they could play in that game and not they cover but win it. So, and they did. And we like the over as well. So I just can't do it here. UNLV's so pathetic. I mean, me betting on them on games with them just makes me sick. You know, I've looked to try to take points with them, or it's pathetic. Next, pass. I'm sorry. It's horrible, like you said.
Well, it's
so
not
bad.
just horrible from a betting standpoint. There's some part of Conor's heart, deep in the pit of his soul there, that kind of would like to see UNLV be good at some point in his lifetime as a local there in Las Vegas. UNLV football, that is. And I'm at the point now where I don't know if I'm ever going to see that again in my lifetime. I mean, the program has become that much of a bottom feeder in the college football landscape. That's where we're at with UNLV here. So that's the problem. There's a bad, troubling spot for Fresno. Yet when you line up these two teams, they still might be able to just almost trip their way by accident into a 5-touchdown win because we think UNLV could still be that bad. What do you think, Grant?
Fresno, man. Rocky Mountain High. These dudes are going to be having a good week, just enjoying a hell of a win. Utah, you were on the over. I don't know if Connor's on the over. We talked about it on the show. We talked about Fresno as a good dog. Connor and I talked about it, I think, week 2, how we like this Fresno State team and their toughness. And I mean,
they almost beat Oregon.
Exemplified. Yeah, that was exemplified by Haener, man. That to me was just like, that was so fun to watch. It reminded me of just a ballsy ass effort, man. And he wasn't going to say no. And I think Fresno, they have that kind of mentality as a group. And when you have a quarterback that, has got a banged up hip, you're on the road in a primetime game, and he guts it out and finds a way to get the job done. Well, they're going to be, that's a huge high. It's probably the biggest win Fresno's had in quite a while. And the way they got it is so emotionally draining, physically draining. Where's Hayner's health this week? How's that hip? Is everyone getting the right reps they should be in workouts? Is everyone getting the right reps in practice? How's the coaching? When you get these crazy ass wins in college sports, right? I've talked about it many times. They're kids, man. They're kids. So yeah, they're going to be high as hell coming into this game, I assume. And I don't know about Hayner's health. Yeah, I mean, you guys said everything you need to say about UNLV. I mean, they 150 yards offensively against Arizona State, 130 against Iowa State. As Ian said, it is a true embarrassment to be in that sick of a facility and be that bad. So Conor, man, throw a little jam there or something. I don't know, maybe some prayers, because this is fucking embarrassing bad.
Yep.
32. I think it just moved to 32. Maybe that's just at my book, but that's a big ass number to lay with a team that just won the best game, maybe the most emotional and coolest, most memorable game they'll win all season. So I'm out on this one. The one thing I would say about it, if I was going to make a play, would be maybe a first quarter under, something like that. Yep. Just being really high, really excited. Hayner may, his hip may be killing him. Have to get into the game flow a little bit. Maybe UNLV stops him once or twice. But
yeah,
I'll be staying away. That would be my only thought on the game.
I like it because I'd be leery of laying first quarter or first half, just because Fresno comes in there slow. They don't wake up till second half. You've seen that UNLV, kind of like Arizona State, which I'm not that high on, but, kind of flat. This team sucks, and they'll score 28 points in the second half.
Preseason line here was 17 for Fresno State as a home favorite. They're now 31 and that. Look at the adjustment, because Fresno's just been incredible to start the year. They nearly beat Oregon. They upset UCLA. They've looked terrific in all their games. UNLV's been awful in pretty much all their games. And look at the adjustment in the point spread that we saw for this game before the year to now. 17 before the year, 31 and a half now. What an adjustment. Let's see that's what can happen just based off a few good games for one team and a few terrible games for the other. Hey, it's not all bad for UNLV. If you give two shits, Tate Martell finally got on the field last week against in garbage time against Iowa State.
He sucks.
And he was 2 for 6. He lit it up. Oh man, it's just too fun to pile on this poor UNLV team. But all right, we'll move on now to Saturday college football, and the games we're highlighting, at least they're games that I've actually already bet. So they're games I've got an opinion on. So let's get into it. Kentucky and South Carolina. We've got Kentucky 5-point road favorites, 49 the total in this game. I'm on the road favorite here, Kentucky. I've been singing the praises of Kentucky from the beginning of the year. It's a much improved offensive football team now that Will Levis, the Penn State transfer, is at quarterback. And I don't know if this South Carolina team, I don't love the situation for South Carolina. They fought hard for a half against Georgia, hung in the game, and then their offense just got shut down. And to be honest with you, a banged up Luke Doty and Zeb Noland are not two quarterbacks that I trust to trade points for 60 minutes with Kentucky. In this game. Now, you could argue that, hey, you got to lay points on the road more than a field goal in Kentucky. Are you ready to trust them? I am ready to trust them. I think their defense is solid. And certainly when you look at their defense, they played Missouri, I think a better quarterback and offense than what they'll see here against South Carolina. South Carolina's defense has been pretty solid, to be honest with you. But I think they're going to be tested here by this Kentucky offense. And I just think Will Levis is not just better, but potentially a lot better than either option South Carolina has at quarterback. I think it'll be competitive, but I think Kentucky, 27-20, 30-20, something like that. I could see that kind of game for Kentucky here. So I'm on Kentucky here, laying the points on the road. Fair number in my mind. Conor Mac, any thoughts here? Kentucky, South Carolina.
Yeah, I have nothing on this one. While I'm a little bit higher on Kentucky with you, Ian, I don't know about laying almost, the 5 points, about a touchdown on the road. South Carolina, I definitely don't like them. But shout out to Ragu. They got over 7 points on his big bet on Saturday. So Absolutely, they got those points against Georgia, 40-13. I think they'll be in this game. I mean, I don't have any incentive. I would to bet South Carolina catching a few points here at home. This game was a pass for me.
Yeah, Hoops 590. I wouldn't say I make a comfy living, but we do enough to pay the bills, keep the roof, keep things going, keep the lights on, that kind of thing. It's a grind though, daily. Like we're not living the rich, fancy millionaire lifestyle, not even close. I can guarantee you that. It's just enough to keep the lights on, keep the bills paid. Be able to put some food in your belly, that kind of some beer in the fridge for me, which is very important. So that's what it does for me. Right now, sports betting. That's the way it's been for the last several years because it's ups and downs. It's not guaranteed income. You're not going to win every day. You're going to lose potentially a lot on a single day. So that's the way it is right now. So, it's just enough to get by. Just keep it's still, even though there's ups and downs and, you always want to be making a lot of money with whatever job you have. I'd be rather doing this because I love it. I've got the passion for it than do anything else. I don't want an office job. I don't want to be a doctor. I don't want to be a nurse. I don't want to be a lawyer. I don't want to be a construction worker. Can't be a construction worker or a plumber or a roofer or anything like that because I'm terrible with my hands. I'm the opposite, the anti-handyman when it comes to me. So I can't do any of that shit. This is what I'm good at. That's why I do it. What do you think here, Grant? Kentucky, South Carolina.
Yeah, just to kind of little go off that, Ian, it's definitely a grind. I've learned a lot from Ian. He's kind of brought me under his wing, and Connor's been awesome too, and just Pub Sports Radio in general. Man, these guys are awesome on the baseball. You guys got to check them out. Like, just learning, even if you're not betting the games we're talking about, just learning about shit. That like different angles, the way you research, as Ian talked about and Connor's talked about, man, it's a grind. These guys put in some serious fucking work, man. It's extremely impressive. So just a kudos to you guys, man. You guys are killers, and the work is real, and it ain't easy, and you're not going to win every week. So, you got to have the goldfish mentality of turning the page quickly and a short memory on wins and losses. I've learned that the hard way sometimes, especially early, 3-4 years ago when I started this. You win a couple weeks and you think you're the king of the world. That's not how it works. It's an each week, each day grind. And these guys are a good example of it. So watch that baseball shit. Yeah, watch the baseball, watch the football, do your work. It ain't easy. To just go back to the South Carolina game, I'm not sure who you said, Connor. Ragu had this over 7.5 team total for South Carolina.
Yeah. Yes.
I saw that. I laughed. I fucking love that bet, man. That's unreal. They did way better than I thought they would, man. I watched them against who did they play? East Carolina, the Pirates, the week before. Was that true?
Yes, they did.
Yeah,
they survived.
And holy shit, they couldn't move the ball to save their lives. Me and my buddy were watching it. It was truly embarrassing. Went down 14-0 to start the game. Ended up getting a win and sneaking one out. Anyway, to make it a long one short, they're missing their middle linebacker, Green. He was carted off the field, South Carolina, I'm talking about, for this game. Kentucky with Will Levis. I like him in this spot. I just think South Carolina is not that great. Connor mentioned it on a little tidbit of 5.5 SEC game on the road. You always have to be aware of those things. But this Kentucky squad, I just believe they're better throughout. Better quarterback, better defense. Not sure on the coaching. I don't know that as well. But I would say that I would lean Kentucky on this one. Maybe a live bet, too. I could see a couple stops early from South Carolina because their defense isn't bad. But this will be a fun SEC game between a Kentucky team that I have my eyes on to see where they kind of go from here. This is a big spot for them in terms of how I view them as a squad, right?
Yeah, South Carolina is not that good, but just to go in there, take care of business, cover, and win, would be good for Kentucky.
Yep. Yeah, we're going to find out because you're right. South Carolina's offense against, let's be honest, an East Carolina defense, that's not the 85 Bears on defense for East Carolina. And South Carolina struggled at times to get anything going offensively for a large part of that game. And yet they still managed to put some points on the board and move the ball, at least at times, against maybe the best defense in the country, Georgia. So which one is it going to be here in this one? Fernando, I sympathize. I'm so broke. If someone tried robbing me, they would only be practicing. I got to admit, that's It's pretty funny. Although I'm not laughing at your I hope you're hanging in there, and not that to that level yet in terms of your financial
Yeah, let's not bring
destitution.
down the show here.
No. Let's
Okay,
positive
sorry.
thoughts. How are we going to
Yeah.
make money, not how are we going to lose it? That's what it's all about here on the show. Yesterday, by the way, I was on the Pub Hub, the NFL. Things went well with that. I mean, we had with the bets there. I mean, New England, Denver, Carolina, Tennessee, and the over against Seattle. We lost the Eagles 49ers over. That was a bad bet. And there was another one that fell short. I'm trying to remember now. One other that I gave out on that show didn't. Arizona, right? I had Arizona in parlays, but they fell short -3.5. But overall, a very good result with the NFL plays I mentioned with Jimmy the Bag on the Pub Hub yesterday. So it was a good show there. All right, let's move on. Next up, we've got Boise State against Utah State. We've got Boise State here currently in this one, 9-point road favorite, 64 the total. If you watched this show last Monday, you should know already what side I'm on in this game. It's the undefeated ATS Warriors that are Utah State. And, of course, Blake Anderson, the head coach, brought in from Arkansas State, brought his quarterback, Logan Bonner, with him. And actually that Andrew Peasley guy, they've been actually using both of their quarterbacks. He's played well for Utah State as well. And what a game last week. They definitely had their problems stopping that triple option against Air Force. Air Force had a lot of success running the football and executing that triple option. But their offense just answered every single time, picked apart that secondary, which I said, service academy teams don't have good secondaries. They can't stop the pass that well. And they could not do that against Utah State. They kept coming back, and as 9-point underdogs, they win outright against Air Force last week. I know a lot of us liked it. Connor, DJ Big Boss called it. I think Big Ragu liked it. I think Grant liked it. I've certainly liked it. And Utah State got the job done. I'm on them again here. This is a team that, and there's a list of teams that are either 0-3 or 0-4 against the spread. And there's teams that are either 4-0, like Fresno State against the spread, and other teams that are 3-0 against the spread. And Utah State's one of those 3-0 ATS teams. And their ATS cover margin, is like almost 20 points. So the betting on average. So the betting markets are way off on Utah State because they were lousy last year. They had a very bad team, terrible defense, bad offense, bad coach. Gary Anderson was a terrible hire. Why did they bring him back? I mean, he's a guy that didn't do well at Wisconsin, didn't do well at Oregon State. And we're going to bring him back now to Utah State, and it was a disaster. Now you got a guy that knows what he's doing, Blake Anderson from Arkansas State. He was always good teams at Arkansas State when he was there. The defense is still a work in progress, and it's going to be a challenge. You got a good Boise team, but Boise's offense has not been hitting on all cylinders. Central Florida, second half of that game, they didn't do anything on offense. The UTEP game, yeah, you're playing UTEP. No wonder you're going to put up points. And then last week against Oklahoma State, that offense with Hank Bachmeier, it got shut down in the second half. They didn't do anything. And look, Utah State's a much weaker defense than Oklahoma State. I'm not going to even try to compare the two. But you got to win this game by double digits on the road, coming off a very disappointing loss to Oklahoma State. I don't even think it's the greatest of spots for Boise either, going on the road. And the back door is always wide open with a team that's got the quarterback play and the offense that Utah State has right now. So this is an undervalued team. It's been undervalued from the beginning. That's why they're 3-0 ATS to begin the year. And I like them again here. I'm on the points with the home underdog, Utah State. What do you like here, Conor Mac? Anything early in the week?
Yeah, like even you said, when Air Force was up 24-13, I'm like, or it was 27-13 maybe even. I'm like, they're fine. And they came back, took the lead, like 35-30, 27. They scored like 3 straight touchdowns. They're in this one. Boise in the last few years hasn't been good on the road. And what happened to them in the second half? That was horrible. Oklahoma State's not very good either, I don't think. There's only way to play this. It's already gone down. Catch it now. There's still some 9.5s and 9. I know the game's early. Someone mentioned in the chat. I still lean over. I think Boise will be able to score pretty easily. I think this game should be in the 30s. Obviously, the last one with Air Force, 49-45, and their defense still needs some work, but they'll be able to score. So I lean over, and I definitely lean the points with the home dog here. Almost a double-digit dog, like I talked about. Take them. Even though the defense is bad, I usually don't love that, but they can sling it. So take the points.
Yeah, the one issue is Boise is 4-0 straight up and against the spread, head-to-head against Utah State the last 4 years, but a lot of really good Boise teams and a lot of really bad
Horrible
Utah State teams. This is a different Utah State group right now, and I know it was 42-13 last year, but it's not going to be that way this year.
They were good, 3 years ago with Jordan Love? They had that one good year. They went, 9-2 or whatever. So, had a few bad years there, and then, bouncing back.
Yeah. Grant, what's your thoughts here with Boise and Utah State?
Oh, yeah, man. I had so much fucking fun watching that Utah State game. I had them points and money line. We talked a lot about it on the show. We all liked them. I was with two buddies that were a little skeptical to get on the money line with me. They did. We were having a couple pints during the game. The 27-13, I think they were down at some point. We still had the faith. And, man, the one thing I really liked about Utah State was, and I talk about this shit a lot, take what you want with it, but, man, I love the bench energy. I love the coach. Coach Anderson comes over. Bonner gets hurt. Peasley comes in, dude. Peasley made some clutch fucking plays, running the ball. He's a big kid. He's got a fucking good arm, too. And the thing that I took away from that game was, I think it was after the 72, 73-yard pass from Peasley. Huge touchdown. And he comes to the bench, and Bonner's on the bench. And Bonner gives him a knuckles, and they're just laughing, smiling. Like they were teammates. It wasn't that I don't want you to succeed. I want both of us to succeed. So that energy.
We're both pulling for the team, right? I love that.
Yeah. And a comeback, you're on the road, us against the world mentality. And they find a way to get a hell of a victory. Their defense, as we talked about, they struggled with that option a little bit. I thought they were actually a little bit better than the stats. They had quite a few bad third down big plays that they gave up. They were close. They stop them twice. They have a 3rd and long, a 3rd and 7, and then Air Force would make a fucking big time play. That happened 3 or 4 times in the game. So something to be aware of. I don't think Utah State's defense is good by any means, but I don't think they may not be as bad as the score. Air Force putting up those numbers. As for Boise, I said it earlier, week 1. I like the Avalos coach, but I only liked him really based on the interviews he had and what I had heard from the program. This is a huge game for them as Boise State. They're laying 9.5. That scares me. I think this Hank Bachmeier kid, he almost reminds me of a Kirk Cousins, where he's good. He can make plays, but, he's not unbelievable. He can still make plays. He's going to make some mistakes. As we talked about, Oklahoma State, how good are they? We are all kind of skeptical on how good they are. And they go into the Smurf turf and beat Boise State. So let's roll with the Aggies, man. Let's keep it rolling. A home dog at 9.5. I'll throw my money there and see where we're at. And I talked about it with the QBs. I don't like how there's 2 QBs on most teams, but like I said, the energy and emotion shown by Bonner and Peasley together, I loved, and they both can play football. So let's roll with the Aggies.
And I agree with Connor. Connor mentioned the over too. I think it will get there as well. 63.5, 64. I haven't bet that one yet. We'll see where the total goes, but it should be high scoring. Boise can't run the football right now. Their run game's been non-existent. Most of their offense has come through Bachmeier in the passing game. And you're right about Andrew Peasley. He played well in that game last week, when Bonner wasn't in there. And he played a little bit last year under the old coach, Gary Anderson, and he showed some glimpses toward the end of the year for Utah State. They might be able to play a little bit, get a better coach in there, maybe a better offense, and maybe you're going to be able to see what he can do. And I thought he played well for Utah State there. All right, next game, Indiana and Western Kentucky. Interesting, really weird non-conference game here right before the start of conference season for both teams. Indiana, 9.5 point road favorite, 62.5 the total in this game. I think this is a massive, dubious, questionable, worrisome spot for the road favorite here, Indiana. When you look at it so far this year for Indiana, you've already lost to Iowa. You got dominated in that game. Michael Penix Jr. with multiple interceptions in that game, struggled in the loss. You played Cincinnati last week. I know they had the they had the win in between there, but that's not saying much. But then you played last week against Cincinnati. Big game. very anticipated. You get after that terrific first half. Things started well, and then the roof caved in. Michael Penix Jr. struggled in the second half against a very good defense, much like he did in the Iowa game, and a comfortable lead early in that game for Indiana turned into a 38-24 loss at home to the Cincinnati Bearcats. I'm convinced he's not 100% health-wise, Michael Penix Jr. He's coming off the ACL injury. He hasn't looked sharp, crisp for a full game so far this year. I mean, the Idaho game, you throw it out. But in the other two games, Cincinnati and Iowa, they get outscored 72-30 in those games. I've got worries about Indiana. Penix doesn't look 100% healthy. He had more interceptions than touchdowns again. He completed less than 50% completion, 17 of 40 throwing the football against Cincinnati. And I know that's a terrific defense. And the secondary for Cincinnati, for that Bearcats team, might be one of the better pass defenses in college football. Don't sell them short. They're going to make a lot of quarterbacks struggle and have that kind of stat line. But when you're Indiana and you had expectations, now you're 1-2. Now you're coming off here a tough loss to Cincinnati. You're second in the 3 weeks. And now you're going on the road for this not very consequential non-conference game against Western Kentucky. Oh, and you've got a big game at Penn State coming up next week after this game if you're Indiana. This just looks like I don't trust this team to be locked in mentally and fully and ready for 60 minutes. 2 losses in their first 3 games, and their 2 big games early in September, Iowa and Cincinnati. Now you got to go on the road, and you got to play a Western Kentucky team that, look, you can argue that obviously Conference USA is not great, and their defense is certainly an area that you'd be concerned about, but they can flat out throw the football. They put up 59 and 35 points in their first 2 games. And another thing I like for Western Kentucky, they're off a bye week. Extra time to prepare here for Western Kentucky, for this coaching staff to get this team ready for this game against Indiana. And considering Indiana, I don't trust them at the moment, in this spot against this opponent, with this game in between the big matchup against Cincinnati and then a game against Penn State next week in Big Ten play. And in between, you got this game. And, you got to get ready for this air raid offense, which is extremely efficient. Bailey Zappi, he's been awesome. He's thrown for over 400 yards in all 3 games so far for the Hilltoppers. They've got guys that can make plays down the field. They play one of the fastest paced teams offensively in the country. I think they make this a challenge for Indiana. I'm on the home dog here. I'm going climbing up that hill with the Hilltoppers here. Getting the 9.5 in this game. I also think this game could go over the total. Western Kentucky's an automatic, week to week, I'm looking to bet them over. I know Indiana's offense has been kind of disappointing at times, but look, as much as I think Western Kentucky's going to score and have offensive success, they're going to give up some points to Indiana here. They will. Indiana's still a good enough offense to be able to put up points. And look, Indiana's offense has been shut down by Iowa, shut down by Cincinnati in the second half last week. That ain't Western Kentucky's defense. Western Kentucky's defense ain't close to that caliber of Cincinnati and Iowa. So I think the home dog hangs, but I also think this is a shootout, and I think it gets over 62.5, 63. So I bet the side and the total of this game. Conor Mac, what do you think? Indiana, WKU?
Yeah, this is the home dog here, or just pass for me. Losing a game that they were in, and then kind of just wear down at the end and lose to Cincinnati. Penix isn't right. I mean, he looks okay. He's just kind of going through the motions. I mean, that ACL obviously isn't 100%. Yeah, I can't lay almost, 10 points here. This is the home dog. Western Kentucky's defense is bad. Indiana will score. But like you said, at home, 2 weeks to prepare, I think they can hang in this one. And there will be points. I mean, Army put up 38 on Western Kentucky, but they only lost by 3. Kind of a similar type game. I think it's close, but there's points. So, yeah, give me the dog, and I lean over.
All right, Grant, what do you think of this one?
I lean over in this one. I look at Penix, and it's hard for me to watch him at times because of the year he had last year. And, we have seen his talent, and he has that ACL injury. Yeah. And as Connor said, he just doesn't seem right. I've been through some major injuries. I've seen many major injuries in the locker room and things like that. And the one thing I would say about it is every human being responds differently. some guys can fucking come back from an ACL and be money in the bank. Other guys, it may ruin their career, just mentally or physically. As I was watching Penix, man, and he was starting to throw those picks and fade away, and the energy of the stadium was going away. As I looked at like his teammates and the line and even the coach and Penix himself when he was throwing those, it was just this disappointing body language of just like, damn, man, like I don't know if I have it anymore. I really thought that's what I was
like,
seeing,
it happened again, that kind of thing. Yeah,
it happened again, yeah, and I don't know if I can get it back. It was just, and I've seen it many times in college sports where it's not the hardest thing in the world to have one good season in college athletics. It's hard as hell to have multiple, and especially with injuries. So, all that being said, Indiana's going to score some points. They have talent, and I think Penix will respond. He's a college Division I quarterback, so that does say something about him. I think he will respond, although his confidence is sketchy. He needs to make some completions early. As I look at it, I just lean over. That would be my only play on it. But I could see the Hilltoppers coming up with something just based on that Penix and just everything going on there. It doesn't look good. So yeah, I would lean over only on this one.
By the way, 2 secondary starters didn't play for Indiana last week, and it showed in the second half. They were getting picked apart in the passing game by Ritter, and they're questionable to play this week. And the place you don't want to be weak against Western Kentucky because it's an air raid up-tempo offense, which means pass heavy. You don't want to be weak in the secondary and battling cluster injuries there. And Indiana still might have 2 secondary starters out, those same guys that missed the Cincinnati game. So that could be trouble against this air raid offense.
What is the over on that, Ian?
62.5. Yep, 62.5. I think it's a fair number. Look, I know Indiana's offense has sputtered, a couple of games, but they will put up some points again. Western Kentucky's still not a shutdown defense. I mean, they'll give it up. They gave up 38 to Army. Let's not forget that in their last game. And even in the Tennessee Martin game, they gave up 21 points and a lot of yards. So I think we'll see a higher scoring game there. Next up, we've got, as we continue on, make sure you hit the like button, by the way. 80 live viewers, hit the like button if you haven't already. Next up, Oregon State taking on USC. We've got USC here in this one, around 13, it looks like, point home favorites in this game at the Coliseum, 62.5 the total. This is one I bet over the total already. Oregon State's one of those teams that are good offense, good enough offense, I think, going into this year with their quarterback, Tristan Gabia, who was the starter most of last year. And I think certainly this year should have a solid year for this team. And, of course, Sam Neuer came over, the Colorado transfer. And what we've seen from Oregon is they've been able to put up points early in the year. I think they could do that here. And USC's offense, let's give Jackson Dart a lot of credit. Coming in for an injured Keaton Slovis in that game, and man, did they impress. 45-14. It completely turned that game around against Washington State. And now there's rumblings Keaton Slovis is returning to practice and ready to play. I don't know if the new interim coach, Dante Williams, taking over for the fired Clay Helton, is going to be rushing to put Slovis back in after the way Jackson Dart played for them. So interesting dynamic here at quarterback for USC going into this game against Oregon State. I think we'll see points. I think they'll put up a bunch on Oregon State, still a shaky defense, but Oregon State should put up some as well. I haven't bet USC yet, but I actually do lean to laying the points. It kind of looked like last week that, hey, there's a little bit of a free and easy, relaxed mentality for the Trojans. And I know Grant's someone who studies the body language and the way the players are reacting and how, the chemistry is going, the energy level. It seemed like that returned to that USC sideline in that first game after Clay Helton got dismissed. They just dominated Washington State in the second half. So I have already bet the over. It's gone up from 60.5 to 62.5. I have not bet USC yet, but I am leaning to the home favorite here, USC minus 13. This could be a little mini buy sign bet on team in the short term coming out of the coaching change. Conor Mac, what do you think? Oregon State, USC.
Yeah, it could be. That second half was a whole different team, like you talked about. Just, wow, 45 points. Defense played well, didn't give up anything. And it was about time Helton was gone. That guy was garbage, That was long overdue, They shouldn't have kept him that long, so I'm glad they did that. Oregon State, with Nolan can score, you're right. I lean over. If this was in Oregon State, I want points. I think Oregon State, SC's always, a lot of teams have a tough time going up there, not only winning and covering. But SC at home, I kind of lean them laying the 13. It's probably a game I don't bet, but I lean the Trojans here.
Yeah, only one road game so far for Oregon State this year at Purdue. They lost straight up and ATS. Didn't win, didn't cover. They were 7-point dogs at Purdue. They lost 30-21. I think they're going to struggle a little bit here. That's why I lean. And by the way, USC's last home game was that disaster against Stanford. You'd think these players want to atone for that. This is their first time playing at home since that debacle against Stanford, which sent Clay Helton packing. Grant, what do you think here? Oregon State, USC.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I live bet USC. I wanted to live bet them. I was on the book, ready to do it. They were down 14-0 in that game against Washington State, plus 520. I wanted to bet it. I didn't. It went 14-7. I got in on USC at plus 230. And this Jackson Dart kid, man, he came in and was slinging that fucking thing. He was throwing darts all over the field. 30 for 46. 391 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. One of them didn't mean anything. I completely cancel it. 4 touchdowns, 1 pick. He's got the long flow. He looks like sunshine. He's got the eye black over one eye. He looks like a USC quarterback. And, I talk a lot about, as Ian said, this chemistry. And, I study those things quite a bit. And with USC, you're right, Ian. I did feel to just relax. Like, let's just go play. Especially once they got back in that game. Let our talent take over and let's just play, man. We're a better team. I think that was kind of the energy in USC. Now, as we go into this week, we got Slovis was an early Heisman candidate, and then we got a Dart coming in that played fucking great and really won him that game. So I don't like quarterback battles in the middle of the season, and I don't like quarterback battles with coaching issues as well. Now, that being said, I think USC, they're the prima donna type kids, right? You're going to get 5-star recruits. You're going to get really good fucking players. And especially, at quarterback, you're going to get guys that can sling the ball. Now, do they pan out always? No. But you're going to get good players at USC. And so I worry about that throughout the week. But goddamn, dude, if they get Dart in there again, which I hope they do, I'll be on USC. If it's Slovis, I might hold back. But this Dart kid, man, I mean, I got in on the live bet, so I may be a little biased there where my money was, but he just looked like a USC quarterback. He looked like Sunshine from Remember the Titans, just throwing darts out there and getting wins. So I'll go with USC if Dart is in. If not, I'll probably watch and listen to those coaches throughout the week, like we've talked about a couple times in the show. Yep. Get inside the locker room.
Absolutely. West Virginia, Oklahoma. Next up, we've got Oklahoma 16.5-point home favorites, 59 the total in this game. I'm on road dog West Virginia here in this one. Maybe last week was the spot to go against Oklahoma, but things just aren't clicking on either side of the football. Defense is getting beat for big plays, and they're lucky Nebraska turned it over a couple times, missed some field goals. Oklahoma's defense, I'm waiting for it to show me that it's the best defense since Lincoln Riley's been there because they've kind of underwhelmed. And the offense last week, I mean, we're at the point now with the offense where, okay, against Tulane, it was a good performance, but Tulane just gave up a 60 spot on Ole Miss. That's against a Nebraska defense that is really not all that good, to be honest with you. And at home, you struggle to get your way to 23 points in that game, and you only outgained Nebraska by 24 yards. Spencer Rattler was missing throws. He's taken too many sacks. They didn't run the football to the success that I thought they should have. That was not a great Nebraska defense that they were up against at home, and they're life and death to win the game, and the offense sputters throughout that entire game. Now you got to play a West Virginia defense that I think is pretty damn good. It's going to challenge this team. I know West Virginia is coming off a big win at home against Virginia Tech, but there's no letdown when you're playing Oklahoma the next week. Not a chance. It's a conference game. No, I mean, I think West Virginia, Neil Brown will have these troops ready. And right now, against any kind of capable, competent team, I'm not ready to trust Oklahoma in this kind of price range. So I'm on road underdog, and I lean under here. Cashed an under with West Virginia last week. They want this to be low scoring, and they've got the defense maybe. Hey, if Nebraska's frustrating Spencer Rattler and that offense last week the way they did, West Virginia's defense is capable of doing that. So I lean to the under a little bit, but I'm on the dog here. Conor Mac, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, if Nebraska can, I think West Virginia can as well. One problem is I'd have to only be with them in the points. They've just been such bad team on the road compared to at home. They just play so good there. But I think it's too many. I think it's too many here, especially if you got over the 17, or maybe, this has gone down from 19. Maybe there's a little buyback. It kind of stays right here. We'll see. But yeah, if you have over 17, I really like. But yeah, we'll see. Rattler, they're kind of just going through the motions. I told you from the beginning, I don't think Oklahoma's defense is that good. The offense obviously has talent, but it's all about West Virginia's defense will be Jared Dagey. Can he play well here on the road, make a few plays, make a few throws? He did pretty good against Virginia Tech, but that was at home. But yeah, give me the dog here plus the 16.5.
Yeah, he still had that. He's going to have an interception, it seems, in every game because that's what he does. Dagey, like he did last week against Virginia Tech, but he still had 2 touchdowns, 15 to 26, 193 yards. The key is, look, I think West Virginia can run the football a little bit against Oklahoma's defense a little bit. I mean, they gave up a couple gainers on the ground. I mean, overall, their rushing numbers are good defensively, Oklahoma. But I think if Letty Brown can get going, he's a great running back for West Virginia. That's going to help them out a little bit. I think he can do that here. Again, the overall numbers look great for Oklahoma's defense against the run. But last week, they did give up a little bit on the ground, more than I expected. And that might mean Letty Brown can have success here running the football for West Virginia. And boy, that makes this offense a lot better when they can run the football. Grant, what do you think here? West Virginia, Oklahoma.
I was on that West Virginia under with you there, Ian. That got close there at the end with that fourth and goal, but we snuck it out on that under 50. That was nice. And then Connor said this with West Virginia. Jekyll and Hyde complex, right? They're a very good home team. They've struggled on the road traditionally for a long time. As I look at this game, I haven't bet it and I haven't looked into it too much, I'll be honest. But as I look at it, I go, God damn, I just want to be out on the Sooners. I really do. Is it premature? Could I be wrong? Totally, I could be. I could be off on this. But my gut and my eyes are telling me that they're just not as good as we all think, or as the polls, and as an Oklahoma team. I just don't think they're as good as they are. So for this, and then the other point I wanted to make, you got a feel good West Virginia team coming in with a nice win, and then you got an Oklahoma team who's gonna get fucking pounded by the media this entire week. They're gonna get pounded, so they're gonna come out hungry. I look at it, if I'm on anything, I'm West Virginia and the points. I'm going to be out on Oklahoma for a few weeks. I just don't trust them, and I don't want my money with them. But that is one thing to be aware of. It's Oklahoma. It's a big-time school. They're going to get pounded all week and questioned for that Nebraska game. So West Virginia and the points for me are a pass.
All right, we got SMU, TCU. Nice little non-conference rivalry. These teams play each other a lot. TCU, 10-point home favorite, 64 the total in this game. TCU is on a pretty bad run as home favorites going back a while. I cashed with Cal against TCU just a couple weeks ago, and TCU barely winning that game 34-32. I have a tough time laying points with TCU. Now, they do have a bye. Gary Patterson, extra time to prepare. Max Duggan, I think, has improved at quarterback. They have a good balanced offense. They also are cranking up the pace again. They're playing faster again on offense with Sonny Cumbie there, who's the offensive coordinator. So extra time to prepare for TCU, but I questioned them laying 10. I did place a small bet, not one of my stronger ones, but I did place a small bet, SMU plus 10. Incredible win for SMU last week. Hail Mary, final play, Tanner Mordecai, deflection, and it's caught in the end zone to beat Louisiana Tech. But this is back to the level where we like SMU. I bet against them with Louisiana Tech last week as home underdogs. SMU laying points on the road. I don't love them in that price range and that point spread role. In this one, I like them a lot more. So I lean to the dog. I think this game could be high scoring too. So 64, you're going to get high score. You're going to get a lot of passing up tempo from SMU. TCU's cranked up the pace a bit. TCU needs to run the football. SMU's run defense has actually been okay so far, and they are more of a run-heavy up-tempo offense, TCU. So that's also why I think maybe the dog can hang. But I lean dog, lean over the total. Conor Mac, what do you think? SMU, TCU?
Yeah, crazy win for SMU. But this is where I want them because their defense isn't very good. But I don't love TCU. I guess their offense, they played Duquesne and then California won 34-32, which was decent. But TCU laying points, especially now it's 10, double digits, hasn't been very good, with Patterson. They have not been well laying numbers like this. So this for me is SMU. They have the better offense. They will give up points, but they'll hang in this game, I think. So give me the +10 with SMU.
All right, Grant, what do you think?
Real quick for me on this one, I haven't looked at it much. Basically, second everything Connor said there. I just don't. I don't love initially looking at a TCU team -10. So I'd lean SMU. Haven't looked too much at that one though.
Nope, nothing wrong with that. All right, Tennessee and Florida. It is Monday. Let's not forget that. This is like the very first day after the lines come out. So if people haven't looked at every single game on the board, you got to forgive them for that. We got Tennessee and Florida. We've got Florida 20-point home favorites, 60.5, 61.5 the total in this game. I do like this. This is another one I think is high scoring. That's why I bet it already over the total here. Tennessee, Florida. Obviously, we know Josh Heupel, the new head coach of the Vols, has transformed. They're now up-tempo, extremely fast offense. In fact, they're playing at one of the fastest paces and tempos in the entire country in terms of seconds per snap. I mean, they are getting up to the line, and they are snapping the next football, Tennessee. And I think that's going to be something they want to do here because Florida played a physical, grinded-out, tough game with Alabama. And to Florida's credit, I didn't expect them to run the football with the success that they did against that Alabama defense. Alabama's supposed to have this amazing defense this year, and there's Emory Jones running it from the quarterback spot. There's their running backs going downhill and getting big chunk yardage running the football against Alabama. That definitely bodes well, I think, for Dan Mullen and this Florida offense, especially against Tennessee. That's still a defense that's in shambles, in my opinion. It is a defense that, to me, is still a major work in progress. They're giving up 212 passing yards per game. They're giving up 210 passing yards per game this year. The run defense has been actually pretty good for Tennessee, but you faced teams that just aren't going to run the football as much as what Florida's going to do so far. Bowling Green, Tennessee Tech, even Pitt, they throw the ball a lot more than they used to. You're going to be tested here by Florida, and I think they're going to have a tough time. I still don't trust this Tennessee defense. They played one good offense. They gave up 41 points in that game against Pittsburgh. I think they'll score, but I think Tennessee, regardless of whether Joe Milton's back at quarterback or they have Hendon Hooker again, the Virginia Tech transfer, who's actually played pretty solid since he's been in there. I think they'll move the ball here against Florida's defense, which is still, not great. It was terrible last year. I think it is a better defense this year, but it's still not great. To me, I think we'll see points here. So I like it over the total. Conor Mac, what do you think? Tennessee, Florida.
Yeah, I think they get over. This isn't the old Tennessee, they want to get up and down like you talked about.
Yep.
So I think there could be points. Yeah, I was shocked how well Florida played, especially the second half against Bama. Because those first two games, they went 35-14 against FIU and, 42-20 against South Florida.
And they didn't play good defense in that game against South Florida, especially in the second half. And South Florida's not great.
Yeah. And in this one, this number came out at 17. I'd only be interested in Tennessee if I'm going to start seeing over 21.5. I might look Tennessee's way. I think they could stay in this game, and I'm not big on Tennessee, but I think there could be a little everyone's jumping on Florida. While they played so great, this number moves up too high, and Tennessee stays in this one. So if this gets over 21.5, I'll be looking for the Vols here in the points.
Yeah, from a spot perspective, after the mammoth showdown against Alabama, where they play their asses off and they fall short, and now you got to lay almost 3. It's just from a spot perspective, it's not exactly the best spot imaginable for the big home favorite Florida Gators here. What do you think, Grant?
Yeah, this Tennessee team's fun, man. In some ways, offensively, at least, they're going to play football, and they're going to play football fast, and they're going to go, regardless of who's at quarterback. I think, early in this game, they may be able to catch Florida off guard. I assume Florida is going to be very well prepared. Again, they are kids, and they did just have a hell of a fucking football game they played. It was a loss, and moral victories, they are what they are. That was one. It was an extremely tough loss, but that was a hell of a performance from Florida. So I look at that and I see maybe a little bit of a hangover in that first half against Tennessee. Tennessee could surprise them with some of those quick plays. But I look at it and go, damn, as Connor said, and Ian, there's going to be some buyback on this Florida team. They just played Alabama to the bone. And as we all know, everyone, a lot of people are watching the Alabama games, and that was a hell of a football game. So a lot of eyes saw Florida this last weekend, a lot of eyes. And that scares me with laying that big ass number. I'm probably not going to make a play on this game, but as I look at it, I think Florida is going to run the fucking ball down Tennessee's throat all game long. So maybe a little hangover early for Florida. I don't think it's going to be much of one, but if I was going to make a play and look at it, it would be Tennessee in the points in the first half, but that would scare the shit out of me too. It's an interesting play. We'll see how Florida responds. Like, is this a Florida team that plays really up to their competition and down to their competition, right? We've seen that a little bit, them playing down to their competition and obviously up. So first half play on Tennessee, possibly no play as of yet. Very interested to see how Florida comes out of the game and if they can roll that thing right down Tennessee's throat and just run that ball with Emory on his backs all day long.
Yeah, definitely interesting to see, but I think they will be able to do that for sure. Next up, we've got Clemson and NC State, one of the marquee matchups on Saturday. Clemson, 10-point road favorites against NC State here on the road, total 47 in this game. And again, this is one of those games where you look at it and there's some people out there that had NC or Clemson around a 17, 18-point favorite on the road in this game. Now they're only 10 in this game, and there's a reason for that. The Dabo Swinney and Clemson, not that same old point spread covering machine. 0-3 against the spread this year. The loss to Georgia, they beat South Carolina State, but 49-3, they didn't cover as 51. And then last week against Georgia Tech, there's some red flags coming out of this game for me with Clemson. 14-8. They barely win the game. Their offense is basically 116th in the country in total yards right now, which is not very good. DJ Uiagalelei has really not exactly been good in terms of finding cohesion with his receivers. It's been inaccurate. It's been some bad decisions, forced the football at times. And then the offensive line, it looks really, really shaky right now for Clemson. They're not opening up holes to run the football. The pass protection's been spotty. That's an issue. And NC State's got a pretty damn good defense. I know they lost to Mississippi State, but remember, 24 points they gave up. One of those touchdowns was a kick return right at the beginning of the game. So they really only gave up 17 points. It's a good NC State defense, very good. I think it can keep them in this game. And when you're talking about teams that have been public teams that have been dominating year in and year out, and they start a season 0-3 against the spread and are losing to the point spread by margins the way Clemson is so far, losing 21.5 and 10 points to the spread in their two big games against Georgia Tech and Georgia, I'm either betting against them or I'm passing the game. And right now I'm on the home dog here with NC State. I know the last 2 years it's been ugly. I believe 55-7 and 41-10 for Clemson head-to-head against NC State the last 2 years. That does concern me, but I've got issues with the Clemson offense, whether they can put up, like, you're 14-8 at home to Georgia Tech, and now you got to go on the road and face this NC State defense, which is pretty damn good. Yeah. I've not overly been impressed with Devin Riley either for NC State. He's got to improve. He's been sort of mediocre so far at quarterback for the Wolfpack. But I think their defense, with all the issues I see with Clemson's offense right now, is good enough to keep them in the game. I like the underdog here, and I would also lean a little bit under the total as well in this one. But I'm definitely liking NC State at +10. Conor Mac, what do you think? Clemson, NC State?
Yeah, that was awful against Georgia Tech. A Georgia Tech team that lost to Northern Illinois. I mean, come on. So I can't take Clemson. I'd be on NC State, but I like the under a little bit better. That game against Mississippi State was kind of ugly. I thought they were a little bit better team. They kicked South Florida's ass 45-0. Kind of laid an egg. Their defense didn't give up much like he talked about, but 24-10, they couldn't score on Mississippi State. As we've seen, their defense is not that great. So this is all under until I see these teams score anything. And I lean to the Wolfpack catching the points at home.
All right, Grant, what do you think? Big one here, Clemson NC State.
Yeah, big one. This one should be fun. I think you said the stats there, Ian. Clemson's kind of owned North Carolina State in the last few years. But as you also said, Clemson looks shaky, right? They don't look like the traditional Clemson team we've seen year after year. And, that last game, there was this long-ass weather delay, and, that was going on. And so I look at that, and I'm trying to use that in my analysis here and say how much of that game can I actually look up. Again, that long delay, who knows how they could have been just jacking around in the locker room or whatever. I don't see that happening. Who knows? This is a gut play for me. I don't have a play. I shouldn't say a play. This is a gut feel for me on this game. I got a weird feeling Clemson's going to do what Clemson's done to NC State in the past. I think they could smack them. I just kind of see a lot of frustration in Clemson now. The O-line hasn't been great, as you talked about, Ian. Quarterback, I'm not going to try to pronounce his name, hasn't been awesome either. But it's a gut thing for me. I think this is going to be a Clemson game where we go, oh, okay, Clemson is Clemson. But I don't have a personal play on it. It's a gut feel. It may be a play by the end of the week, just because I think it is one of those things where they may just own this team. And but as Conor said, also that under may be the play on this one too. So keep an eye on that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that will be a lower scoring game. The Clemson's defense, there's nothing wrong there. There's no question. They have been very good defensively. The issues right now are on the offense. So it does feel like 47. And there is value on Clemson, because look ahead lines before the season had Clemson in the 17, 18-point range here as road favorites. And now they're only 10. So you're seeing adjustments based on Clemson's 0-3 ATS start, and obviously NC State being a solid team. But that being said, I think the adjustment's warranted, and still like NC State here as a home dog. We got Nebraska, Michigan State. Michigan State 5-point favorites here at home, 51.5 the total. Money's come in on Michigan State. Some of it's mine. I like Michigan State again. We're going with another, 3-0 ATS team that's outperformed betting market expectations so far this year. 3-0 start. I think a reasonable number to lay with them at home. I like the way Peyton Thorne's played at quarterback. Kenneth Walker, the running back for Michigan State, too, outstanding. And how about the defense? How about Mel Tucker's defense? I mean, they've done a terrific job. Shut down Miami, frustrated them, forced turnovers, collapsed the pocket, made De'Aaron King run for his life most of that game last week. They got a defense, Michigan State. And if you think I'm trusting Adrian Martinez on the road, where he was a shit show in the first game against Illinois. Now, he played okay against Oklahoma, but back-to-back road games, tough spot. He's still not a guy I trust on the road to go in there and win games. The price is reasonable enough, short enough, as I could bet at -4. It's now gone up to -5. I think it's still playable at the current number, Sparty, minus the points. Conor Mac, what do you think?
I think it's playable too at 5 because of that defense. Martinez on the road. There's just no way I could take Nebraska. There's no freaking way. I need like 14 points in this game to win Nebraska. And they didn't look that bad. I just don't trust Martinez. And yeah, is Michigan State's defense for real? I think they're pretty good. They had King running around. Martinez is not very good. So I'd be only on Sparty here, -4.5.
All right, Sparty -4.5. This could be an under as well. Actually, 51.5. I leaned in that direction. I leaned to the low side under the total here. Grant, what do you think? Nebraska, Sparty.
Yeah, I like the under as well. I have bet this game, and I'm going to bet it again, and it's going to be in parlays for me all week. I love Sparty here, man. I love what Mel Tucker's done. I've talked a little bit about, how Michigan State took him from CU. Last year was a crazy year for Michigan State. I think we were all on Sparty this last weekend down in Miami. We were a little worried about the heat. It didn't affect them. They had King running around all day, like you said, Ian. Man, I like this Sparty team. I'm not even too worried about the 5.5. As Conor said, like, if you're going to be on the other side, damn. Like, I need way more points if I'm going on the Nebraska side. So, I like this Michigan State team. Nebraska, I talked about it last week or 2 weeks ago with the Vikings, how they started the game with 3 or 4 false starts. Nebraska started the game with two in a row false starts to start the game, and 4 false starts, I think, in the first half. The other note I want to make on Nebraska God, special teams is crazy as hell in college football with anyone, no matter who it is, Alabama to the last team in the country. It's just a different level than the NFL. Well, Nebraska, their kicker, Culp, he had missed 5 for 6 heading into the extra point that Oklahoma returned for 2 points. So they bring in the guy, Meyer. He gets the kick blocked. They go 100 yards and get the other 2 points. So kicking, I don't want, that's a positive if you're on the Sparty side, because you don't trust any of the kickers in Nebraska. You don't trust Martinez on the road. I'm all over this game. I'll probably bet it pretty heavy. And like I said, it's going to be in my parlays. I like this Mel Tucker team. Maybe underrated in some ways, not in my book. I think they're legit. I think they may smack that ass.
Yeah, and especially because you gutted out against Oklahoma for almost 4 quarters. You hang tough, right, for most of that game last week, and you fall short, and you got to go on the road again now and play a pretty tough, much improved Michigan State team. It could be one of those where they hit a wall, Nebraska, in this game potentially. All right, Rutgers, Michigan. We stay in the Big Ten with this next one. Michigan, 19-point home favorites against Rutgers, 51.5 the total. I'm leaning toward the Rutgers side here. Now, it's scary. Michigan's looked damn good. I mean, they definitely have. I mean, the offense even has put up big numbers so far. Cade McNamara's looked comfortable. The defense has been just outstanding for Jim Harbaugh's Michigan Wolverines group in the first part of the year. But Rutgers don't sell them short. And this is where we're going to find out. Can Rutgers, hang in there and compete with some of the bigger, better teams in the Big Ten? I think they could here in this one. They're 3-0 straight up, 3-0 against the spread. Competition's not been great. Temple, Syracuse, and Delaware in their first 3 games. But really for Michigan State, Western Michigan was a good win. Really was, considering the way Western Michigan played against Pitt. They dominated Washington. They thrashed Northern Illinois. It's not easy to go against Michigan right now. They're also 3-0 against the spread. But, man, they got the huge game at Wisconsin next week. I mean, it is a little bit of a look-ahead spot. I think Greg Schiano's a coach that even though his teams, there's better personnel on the Michigan team than Rutgers. I mean, Rutgers is making strides, but they still aren't recruiting like Michigan. Michigan's got better players on most positions on the field in this game. And Noah Vidral is still a quarterback that's a work in progress. He's like a game manager. He's not it's not an explosive offense. He's not been lighting it up. But I think defensively, Rutgers can do enough things. And Schiano always seems to have this team ready to go. I've been impressed that they've played clean football. They've forced turnovers. They're not taking a bunch of penalties. You do that against Michigan, and maybe in this kind of price range where you're getting almost 3 touchdowns, you could just do enough to hang around, especially with Michigan, with Wisconsin, a big on-deck game for them in Madison against the Badgers next up. So it's not easy to go against Michigan. They're a freight train right now. No doubt about that. But I think at this number, the price is right here a little bit to get involved with the Rutgers side in this game. And again, when you look at where this line was before the year, you could make a little bit of a case here that you're getting a little extra point spread value here with the Rutgers side in this game, because before the year, Michigan was only going to be around 14 in this game. And now they're 19 because they've been so impressive. So I'm going to take a chance with Rutgers. I mean, I know Michigan's looked like a house of fire so far, but I'm on the Scarlet Knights here. Conor Mac, what do you think? Rutgers, Michigan.
Yeah, I don't really have anything for this game. I've been impressed with Michigan. I know it's early. Their defense is really good, but I wouldn't lay points with them. So to me, I'd be on Rutgers or pass, and I want more than 3 touchdowns. Personally, I want over that 21. Even though I like Rutgers at 18.5, I just don't love it. Probably enough to bet. So it's a game I'm going to stay off.
I know Jacksonville's so stubborn, right? But so is Rutgers. Rutgers is 3-0 against the spread. So yep. I get it. It's tough. Michigan's look great. I mean, the Western Michigan, after the way they played against Pitt, and Michigan laid waste to that Western Michigan team, and then we know what they did against Washington. I understand. I don't take it lightly that I'm betting against a team here in Michigan that's looked terrific here in 3 games. But you're betting numbers, not teams. I just think the point spread's just a touch high in this one. What do you think, Grant?
Yeah, I think you guys have talked well about this one. I mean, Michigan, like you said, they've looked good. They haven't done anything really wrong. We saw that Western Michigan's a solid team from the MAC, and Michigan did a nice job on them getting away from. One thing I've kind of noticed with Michigan, and this is more of a feel thing than actual analytical stats because I haven't looked at them, but I just feel that Michigan never starts games well in that first quarter. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's Harbaugh. I don't know if it's playing in front of 110 fucking thousand kids screaming, but I look at this game and I go, damn, I love Rutgers in the first quarter, first half, maybe even a money line on the first quarter. I haven't bet either of those. I have bet Rutgers at plus 19. Scary. I've been kind of high on Michigan this year, but I kind of want to take a step back and say, okay, why am I high on Michigan? Really, what have they shown me to a high level? And it's nothing of crazy substance, I like what I've seen from Rutgers. I like the coaching staff. I talked about it, I think in week 1 we all did. We like the energy around Rutgers. They're coming to win games. They're not just coming to compete games. They're growing in the Big Ten, growing that reputation. So this is a huge fucking game for that program. And as Michigan, as we've seen, they look ahead of teams. They play down to teams' level, especially for pockets of games. I think the pocket in this game may be right away, and Rutgers could jump on them. So I'm going to look at that Rutgers first quarter, maybe money line. I'm going to look at Rutgers in the first half points and total game points. As Connor said, that 21 would be extremely nice if we could get there. I'm already in on the 19. We'll see, man. I could be wrong. Michigan could smack it, but just based off of everything in the past, I could see this being a letdown spot and a tight win for Michigan.
And Michigan is on a 0-5 run ATS, and remember, this is their conference opener. They played Western Michigan. They played all non-conference games to this point. Michigan, this is their Big Ten opener. They've struggled in conference games, ATS. Look at last year. Rutgers takes it down to the wire, overtime game, and only plus 11 total yards for Michigan in that game. Rutgers went toe-to-toe with this Michigan team. And I know Michigan's looked dynamite, but Greg Schiano can match wits, if not better, Harbaugh from a prep standpoint, X's and O's, all that stuff. Rutgers is going to be well-prepared for this game, and a well-prepared team. Schiano's done a great job. Hang in there. They took Michigan down to the wire last year. Revenge spot for Rutgers. They felt they could have won and maybe should have won that game last year against Michigan in Piscataway, but they lost in overtime. So I think there's enough reasons. And Rutgers, by the way, on a great run as a underdog, a road underdog. Yeah. I think they've gone like 6, 7, or 8 covers in a row. So I'm on Rutgers here. I get it. I'm in front of the Michigan freight train. Maybe I get run over, but I'll take a chance here with Rutgers side. All right, 2 games left, Cal and Washington. We have Washington 7.5-point home favorites, 46.5 the total in this one. Is another underdog for me on the road with Cal. This is where I want to back Cal. I took Cal against TCU as a road underdog. Cash, they lost by just 2. I'm taking them here plus 7.5. Are we really going to buy Washington's back because they beat Arkansas State 52-3? I mean, in that offense, all of a sudden, wow, we're impressed with Dylan Morris in that offense. I don't know. Arkansas State gave up 680 yards and 55 points the week before to Memphis. So let's calm down with, whoa, everything's good again with Washington. I'm not sure about that. Cal's a good road underdog. They covered at TCU. We just got to hope against Washington does have a good defense. You just got to hope Chase is Garbers, not garbage in this game at quarterback for Cal against that Washington defense. But give me the points here with Cal. I'm still not ready to lay more than a touchdown. Yeah, Washington's offense had one good game against an absolutely sieve defense that probably couldn't stop me, Conor Mac, or Grant Arnold if we suited up the helmet and pads. So let's see what they can do here, this Washington offense against a better Cal team. What do you think here, Conor Mac?
Yeah, I lean here with Cal as well. I don't love him as much on the road, but yeah, I couldn't lay points over a touchdown right now with Washington. I like the under a little bit better here, 46.5, and it's gone up. But when I watch that Washington defense is good. I don't know if Cal can move the ball too much. I think this one's kind of a dogfight. So I'd lean under, and yeah, I'd lean with the points with Cal.
All right, Grant, Cal, Washington.
Yeah, basically going to say the same as Connor just said. And you, Ian. That's too heavy of a line for me. I haven't seen anything good from Washington. Yes, they smacked that ass last week, but let's not put it too much into that. If it's anything for me, it's either Cal or I'll be looking at this game live because this could get interesting with Washington, especially if they score first. I may jump on Cal to get a little backdoor cover, just hang in that game. Because Washington hasn't proven to me that they can cover long spreads or that they can win even a tight game. They just haven't been very good. So I'll be looking at that one live. If Washington could sneak one in early, maybe get a couple extra points with Cal there. That would be my play on it.
All right.
Yeah, I watched the game real quick, and they weren't even impressive. 55-3, Washington. Like, I wasn't impressed. They kicked their ass, but it wasn't like anything special. So for me.
Well, exactly. It's hard to be impressed when they just gave up 55 and 680 total yards to Memphis the week before. Like, how good was that offensive performance truly from Washington?
Yeah.
We'll find out a lot more. Let's not forget they did nothing against Michigan, and they struggled against Montana at home in their first game. So we got to see it again. I've got to see it again from this Washington offense. All right, final game, and this is a great game to end with for the college football look ahead to Saturday. Texas A&M and Arkansas. Texas A&M 5.5-point road favorites, 48 the total. I'm on the Arkansas train, and I stayed off them last week because I was worried about that spot against Georgia Southern. They beat Texas. Would there be a letdown for Arkansas? There was no letdown. 45-10. They beat the doors off Georgia Southern. They outgained them by 400 yards. What point are we going to start to acknowledge that Sam Pittman's one of the best coaches right now in the country with what he's done with this Arkansas team? It's been damn impressive. They've got a great defense. This defense has been terrific. We've got Arkansas's defense 18th in the country total yards, 12th against the pass, only giving up 123 rushing yards per game. They are a very good defensive group. They forced a bunch of turnovers. And they, I think, could make things difficult. Remember, Haynes King injured at quarterback for A&M. I know they rolled New Mexico last week, but who cares? New Mexico's awful. And they've got into Zach Calzada at quarterback, and he was solid. But, yeah, you're going on the road now. Your first start on the road, too, for Calzada in this game against a great defense. And, yeah, Arkansas's offense, KJ Jefferson, the quarterback, he's a work in progress, but he had a good game last week. More than anything, they can run the football. They've got some good backs. Traylon Smith, Raheem Sanders, Dominique Johnson. This is a team that can run the football. And can they do it against A&M? A&M is a very good defense, obviously. A&M's defense giving up. They are a little vulnerable on the ground. I'll say that. They've been great against the pass, A&M, but their defense has given up 162 rushing yards per game. I think that's a good thing for Arkansas when you look at it here. I like Arkansas here. Sometimes you see Jimbo Fisher and this A&M team on the road have a real tough time. I'm buying into Arkansas. I wasn't sure. Could Arkansas compete and hang with like Alabama, A&M, Georgia, Ole Miss, LSU, some of these better SEC teams? I think they can. They have impressed me that much. They didn't just beat Texas. They ripped them. And Texas just came back and stopped a mud hole in Rice last weekend. This Arkansas team's got it going. They're 3-0 against the spread. They've been massively undervalued. I think they're live. I'm not only taking the points. Give me the money line here on Arkansas. This is a live home dog. I've seen Fisher and A&M stumble in this spot before. You still have Calzada making his first start on the road against a good defense here in Arkansas. I think this is a live dog to win outright. Give me Arkansas here. Conor Mac, what do you think of this one?
Yeah, this is Arkansas. We've talked about it since the beginning. They'll be able to – A&M's, you talked about pass defense has been good, but their run defense not so much, and that's what Arkansas brings back, that whole offensive line. They'll be able to run it on them. Even though A&M, this is the best defense they'll see. You're right, Zoe. I love that it's kind of gone up, the total. I mean, if it keeps going up a little bit, I'd still take the under, even though I think there's some points. But, yeah, best defense they'll see, Arkansas and A&M. But A&M, offensively, I haven't been, impressed at all. How will they be able to score here much? This is Arkansas. Take a money line, the points, and I lean under.
You know what's shocking, too, about A&M is, look, the first half they did what they wanted offensively, but in the second half they got New Mexico actually stopped them multiple times, and that's not supposed to happen. You're supposed to keep piling on. I still think this A&M offense has issues. They're not a finished product yet, and now they got to try to work on the kinks in Arkansas, in Fayetteville, against this surging, red-hot Razorbacks team. That's going to be a challenge for them, I think. Grant, what do you think of this one? Great SEC matchup here.
Yeah, I'm with the boys on this one, man. I'm with the fellas. Connor got me on Arkansas against that Texas team earlier in the season. Banged a money line and points. Was extremely impressed with them. I think this is a good team, and they're at home. And like you guys talked about, first start on the road for Texas A&M's quarterback in the SEC, that ain't no joke. And you got a hungry-ass Arkansas team that's playing great defense. And I look at the A&M squad, and I go back to when they played CU here at Denver, where the Broncos play. Dude, A&M could barely move the ball, and we just saw CU get that ass smacked 30-0 against Minnesota State at Folsom Field. I got in early in the week at CU at -1.5, thinking I was a wise guy. They got that ass beat. Happens, right? Happens to all of us. But my point being, man, I don't trust this A&M offense at all. I think they're going to really struggle with the quarterback, his first start on the road. I like the under. I love the points, and I'm getting on that money line too. So we're going to be all hogs on Saturday, fellas.
Trifecta. Yep.
All hogs all the time. Let's get in that slop right now and get it done if we're Arkansas here, plus the points at home. And by the way, last year, 42-31 in this matchup for A&M, but Arkansas, 461 to 442 total yard edge over A&M. Outgained A&M in that game, even though they lost by 11. Or in that game, 42-31. So they went toe-to-toe with A&M last year as well. And I think this year's Arkansas team even better than last year. And again, let's see what Calzada and this offense can do on the road, because I think that's not been a fluid offense from what I've seen so far for A&M. So I think that's why Arkansas, and again, you're going to argue with a team that's been a point spread machine since Sam Pittman got there at the beginning of last year. All they've done is cash tickets for their bettors. Ever since Sam Pittman got there last year at Arkansas. So I think they'll cash another ticket on Saturday. We'll get to everybody's final thoughts and our sponsors in just a second to wrap up the show. Briefly, we won't get to the game. Remember, there's a Beat the Line with Bebsy and Jimmy the Bag tomorrow night, Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. So they will go through game by game, full analysis of the NFL card. But I do want to throw out the couple bets that I've made in the NFL already this week. Arizona, Jacksonville. I'm on over the total in that game for obvious reasons. Not a good defense for Jacksonville, good offense for Arizona. I think there's points there. I'm on the Chargers +7 against Kansas City. It's already down to 6.5. Bounce back spot for the Chargers. KC in a situation where they're coming off that tough loss last night, but they're just not winning games by margin. They're 2-11 against the spread their last 13 games, and they are just not winning games very often these days by a touchdown or more. I think the Chargers can give them a very good, tough game at Arrowhead there. The other ones in the NFL that I bet already, Chicago, Cleveland. I'm on the underdog Bears here a little bit. Not been impressed with Cleveland as favorites here. And again, Houston, not an impressive performance. I think a little bump in Chicago with Fields because Dalton's injured. You would expect Fields to be in there. I think you'll see Chicago plus the points in that one worth a look. Yeah, I lean over too as well. Chargers, Chiefs in that game. Someone in the chat mentioning that. And the others, Cincy, Pittsburgh. I'm on the Bengals plus the points. I trust Joe Burrow to bounce back. It was an ugly game. Everybody's entitled to a bad day at the office, a bad game. Burrow had one. I have a bad betting day too. Every now and then. So does Connor. So does Grant. We all have bad days at the office. I think Burrow will be better. And I don't trust Pittsburgh's offense laying points right now, flat out. So I bet Cincinnati in that one. And then the last two, Tampa Bay, LA Rams, Seattle, Minnesota. Both of those games I bet over the total. I think it's a shootout with the Bucs and the Rams. Rams defense is still shaky. Like their run defense has been a little shaky. They've given up some big yards, big plays. Certainly Tampa Bay's secondary is ravaged, and I think Matt Stafford could pick it apart. So that's got shootout written all over it. Bucs and Rams on Sunday over 54.5. And I'm also on over 55 Seattle, Minnesota. I said Seattle's an over team. I think Minnesota's an over team. Man, that defense sucks. Mike Zimmer's got to be ripping his hair out how pathetic this defense is compared to what it was last year, 2 years, 3 years ago when Minnesota was really good. Not the same defense. Seattle will score. I think Minnesota will, though, too, because I ain't sold on Seattle's defense either. And I mentioned that in the previews. So for the team previews I did with Jimmy. So I think that's a high-scoring game as well. So that's my NFL early in the week. My looks for that Sunday NFL card. All right, we will wrap things up in just a second, but first we'll get a couple words in from our sponsors. All right, Southtown 101. When you're in San Antonio, stop in. Great food, drinks, live music, DJs, and karaoke at Southtown 101. Manscaped, promo code PubSports. 20% off your purchase with the promo code PubSports of the Lawnmower 4.0 and any Manscaped product. MyBookie.ag, promo code PubSports. Football's here. Hockey and basketball next month. We're looking forward to that for sure as well. MyBookie.ag. Sign up for an account. Bitcoin accepted currency for your deposit. MyBookie.ag. Use the promo code PubSports. All right. Yes. Jacksonville Zoe asking the Arizona team total. I wouldn't argue with that. I'm on the full game over, but I think that's probably a good bet too. Pitt's defense. Yeah. And TJ Watt injury. That's an impact injury. That defense wasn't the same after he left that game against Las Vegas on Sunday. That is an impact injury and a key one for Pittsburgh. So keep an eye on that for sure. And that's why I think Cincinnati can compete in that game on Sunday. Great show. Hit the like button on the way out before we wrap up. We'll get final thoughts from everybody. Conor Mac, we'll start with you. Final thoughts before we say goodbye.
Nothing. Love doing this, breaking down these games earlier in the week. And I'll see you Saturday. I'll see you in an hour, the MLB show.
Yeah, you'll be seeing Conor and I in an hour. Exactly. MLB closing time, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. We'll break down the Monday MLB card. Ski Profit will be along for the ride, joining us as well. Grant, final thoughts. Another great show.
Yeah, another great show. Good to be a part of it, fellas. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to Pub Sports, man. There's a lot of good shit on YouTube with these guys and the website. Make sure you check out them on the baseball. Like I said last week, I watch them all the time. Great insight. And I love Sparty this week. And also, wish me luck in my round of 16 tonight in the Colorado Open, baby. Let's get it.
Yeah, go get him. Let's see. You're surged to the top. You're going to be taking on the likes of Medvedev pretty soon. You know it. You're going to get to that point. Look out. Grant Arnold at a tennis ATP tour near you maybe in the next few years. Well, you got to dream big sometimes. But, hey, we'll start slow. Good luck to you in the Colorado Open. I know you won your first match over the weekend, so congrats. And hopefully you can keep the winning vibes going on the hard court there on the tennis. So great stuff with Grant and Conor. Great show. Thanks to everybody in the chat for joining us. We'll be back next Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, hitting the books. We'll do it all over again. Your first betting look at NFL and college football for the week ahead. For Conor Mac and Grant Arnold, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great week. Enjoy the games and good luck. Conor and I will see you in an hour for the MLB Closing Time show right here on Pub Sports Radio.
Peace.